Am I the jerk for suing my company for everything I possibly could after they abruptly canceled my contract I already signed with them? Because literally I had signed a lease and I had basically dropped out of school to go for this job. So for them to suddenly switch it up on me and just cancel everything completely ruined my plans and put me in a situation where I just don't know what to do anymore. Here's what happened. I'm a 25-year-old male and I got an internship at a multinational company during my senior year of college, and the facility I worked at was in a rural area with no public transportation, so I had to carpool with coworkers who use company cars. Because of this, I made a verbal agreement to work outside the hours stated in my contract, which was like 30 hours a week. Some days I worked regular business hours, and on days I had classes, I worked from home. The facility also had specific days where they worked overnight, and I would go in to help with activities during those shifts. Now, the problem started when I asked to extend my internship contract for another year, because during my initial interview, they had actually asked if I'd be willing to delay my graduation to do a second year as an intern if possible, and I had said yes. By the middle of the year, I started telling my team that I definitely wanted to extend my contract. Whenever I asked about it, they always confirmed via text messaging that they were definitely going to extend it. Meanwhile, my roommate was planning to move out, so I was waiting for the company to officially sign the contract just so I could decide my living situation. Either rent an apartment near the carpool pickup spot or move back in with my parents in another city to finish my degree. Well, the extension contract finally got signed by the company. So I went ahead and I signed a lease for an apartment, and I told my team that I'd done it since I'd be staying for another year. Almost 2 weeks later, I got a message from my manager scheduling a one-on-one meeting. When I joined the call, the coordinator in charge of the interns suddenly hopped in as a surprise and said, "Unfortunately, we won't be able to renew your contract due to some internal changes. Good thing nothing was signed yet, right?" I then started panicking because I had already signed the lease for my new apartment, and I told her that the extension contract had already been signed, but she just brushed it off and said it wouldn't be a problem. She could just cancel the extension contract itself. I then left the meeting absolutely desperate, not knowing what to do or how I was going to pay my bills. I tried reaching out to them asking to please reconsider, but I got nowhere. My contract ended, I was left unemployed, and I had to suddenly scramble. I managed to graduate, but I spent 2 months unemployed, having to pay the bills for my new apartment out of pocket while trying to find a new job in the city. Given all of this, plus the immense stress and anxiety they put me through, I decided to take them to court. When I consulted a labor lawyer, he recommended that we also sue for doing work outside the scope of an internship and to file for full employment recognition. Even though I had those informal schedule agreements with my boss, I was still working overnight shifts and helping out in hazardous areas, which interns, by the way, are legally not allowed to do here. So I ended up throwing the book at them and suing for everything I possibly could. And with that in mind, am I really the jerk in this situation? Did I go too far by firing back legally? Because I don't know what else to do here. No, you're not the jerk at all. These people screwed you over big time. Dude, if I had signed an agreement and signed a contract with these people and then signed a lease and they suddenly came back and said, "Oh, I'm sorry, we can't hire you anymore," which by the way is after you saying I'm going to take a year off of schooling, dude, I would have sued them as well. Like I would have lost my mind on them because there's no way this is appropriate, dude. You can't do that to somebody. You can't just say, "Oh, we've had some internal changes, so no, we're not going to hire you," you know, after stringing you along the entire year, which is exactly what they're doing. And thank God you have those text messages, because holy crap, what do you mean you're not going to keep me on board? I'm literally now unemployed in an apartment that I'm going to be like desperately paying for. Plus I'm still going to school, and it's like, dude, you can't do that to me. That is so unfair. So in my opinion, the act of suing these people is them getting exactly what they deserve. This is karma working that beautiful magic, baby, because guess what? They can't just screw you over like that and expect you to sit there and just take it. That is not how this should work. And honestly, you standing up for yourself is the right move in this situation. If you like Am I the Jerk and what we're doing over here, please check out Am I the Genius. It's going to be linked down below in the description. Just click and go ahead and subscribe to them. And also, if you have your own stories you want to submit, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you want to submit your own stories. We're reading them all the time and we're picking out the best ones, so trust me, we would love to hear what you have to say. Am I overreacting for being upset at my sister after she announced her pregnancy at my graduation dinner? Because I seriously feel like my moment was completely shattered by my sister once again hijacking anything good that happens in my life. And now I just don't know what to do about this. Here's what's going on. I'm a 22-year-old female and I graduated from university last weekend after honestly one of the hardest few years of my life. I worked part-time almost the entire time I was in school. I took care of a lot of responsibilities at home and basically had no social life because I was so so focused on graduating with honors. My parents were really proud and planned a nice family dinner for me at a restaurant, and this was nothing huge or fancy, just immediate family and a couple of close relatives. I was genuinely excited because my family usually doesn't make a big deal out of my accomplishments, so this really felt special. Now, my older sister has always been kind of the main character of the family, if you will. She's louder, she's more outgoing, and somehow every event becomes about her eventually. I spent years trying not to let it bother me. Now, the dinner actually started off really nice. My parents gave a toast about how proud they were, my aunt brought flowers, and for once, I felt seen. Then, right before dessert, my sister suddenly stood up smiling and said, "Well, since everyone's together, I have some good news too." She then pulled out a tiny pair of baby shoes and announced that she was pregnant. And when she said this, the entire table exploded. Everyone started crying, cheering, hugging her. They were taking photos, they were asking questions, they were moving seats to sit closer to her, and all this other stuff. Within maybe 2 minutes, my graduation dinner completely turned into a pregnancy celebration. And nobody talked about my graduation again for the rest of the night. At one point, my mom literally asked the waiter if they could write "Congrats, Mommy" on the dessert plate for my sister. Meanwhile, my own graduation cake was still sitting untouched at the other end of the table. I just kind of sat there quietly while everyone focused on her, and I tried really hard not to cry because I just didn't want to ruin the mood. When we got home, my mom noticed I was quiet and asked what was wrong, and I admitted that I felt hurt that my sister chose my graduation dinner to make her announcement. Well, my sister immediately got upset and said that I should be happy for her. And now my family says I'm being selfish and dramatic because they say a pregnancy is exciting news and it's not like a graduation changes anything. My sister also said I'm too old to care about having attention for one night. What hurts the most is that I would never do that to somebody else. If I had been at her engagement dinner or her birthday or promotion, anything like that, I would have waited for my own moment instead of hijacking theirs. But now I feel guilty for even being upset because everyone's acting like I'm some kind of jealous monster just for one dinner to stay about the thing we were supposedly celebrating. So am I the jerk here? Did I cross a line in some way? Because I don't know what to do here. No, you're not the jerk. Your sister sucks. Everybody justifying this is kind of weird too because this was supposed to be about you. She literally just couldn't handle the fact that you were getting attention and she wasn't. And that is obnoxious in my opinion. That really does suck. And the fact that everyone's being so dismissive about it and being "Oh wow, you're being dramatic. It's not like your graduation changes anything." But it's dude, it changed the original poster's life. Holy crap, what are we talking about? This is a huge accomplishment. They went to school for years. They graduated with honors. They made a lot of sacrifices. That's not just something you glaze over, dude. You can't just be "Oh, it's not that serious." No, it is serious. What are we talking about? So yeah, your whole family pretty much sucks and your sister is a complete jerk for doing that. And if I was in your shoes, I would also be pretty pissed off of this. Today, I drove 4.5 hours to see my long-distance boyfriend and eat dinner with him, just for him to cancel at the last second, forcing me to travel all the way back home. And now I'm kind of wondering if I should ask him to pay for the gas because I traveled a long way, and it definitely was not cheap to drive there and then be expected to turn right back around. Here's basically what's going on. Okay, so my boyfriend lives in the state next to mine. By mileage, it should only take a couple of hours to get where he lives, but it always ends up taking a couple of hours more due to the congestion of the area. We had made plans last week to have dinner on Monday because I actually had a day off for once. Well, Monday rolls around and I leave my home and I start driving there. I made a couple of stops for a snack and some fuel later, but nothing too long. Overall, I'll say the trip probably took roughly 4.5 hours, and I let him know that I was there and I would be getting an updated gate pass to the base where he lives. He's not in the military, but he works for the government, and he's able to live on base itself. And if I'm being honest, getting the pass was way easier than I anticipated. The rules have changed since my last pass was issued, so that was a bonus. As I was getting back into my vehicle, he calls me in a panic and says, "Babe, Murphy's Law has struck and we need to reschedule. I promise I'm gonna make it up to you." I can't really go into great detail, but it was mandatory that he drive an hour in the opposite direction from his home just so he could do an interview. I then asked him how long he was gonna be, and he said he didn't know. And knowing his job, I do know that sometimes these things can take just a little bit longer, but other times it doesn't. He then told me to be safe driving back to my house. And yes, I understand that the situation was completely out of his control, but I'm also very upset with the cost of gas these days. I may as well have just tossed $100 billion into a shredder. Round trip, I spent $110 on gas. I didn't get angry with him on the phone. I meant my sense of humor about it, but I just felt defeated. He has also made no mention of rescheduling our dinner, and it has been 2 days. So would it be fair to ask him to reimburse me for the fuel I now feel that I wasted by getting there and then having to go back home without even seeing him? Because right now I'm not sure how to broach the subject and I just don't know what to do. Holy crap, dude. First off, you're telling me that you drove 9 hours for a round trip just to have dinner? Like, why not make it a trip of some kind? Like, okay, I'm gonna spend I don't know, the whole weekend with you. Or I don't know, let's spend the week together or something like that. That's a crazy drive just to eat dinner. I don't know about you, but I would not want to do that. But also, if I'm being honest, your boyfriend's kind of pissing me off. Dude, your girlfriend drove 4.5 hours to see you. It's not as simple as her just driving back home. That is a completely wasted day. What are we talking about? That sucks, bro. So in my opinion, yeah, he needs to pay for that. He should send you some money to cover the gas that you're spending there and back for, I don't know, literally no reason. That seems incredibly unfair and not something I would ever want to deal with. Did I overreact by cutting a guy out completely from my life after he made a really mean joke about my friend, essentially making fun of the fact that she's overweight? Here's what happened. I want to start this by saying that I do not personally think I'm in the wrong, but historically I can sometimes jump too quickly to extremes, and I want to know if this is an example of me doing that. Also, by the way, all names in this story are fake and they definitely have been replaced. I'm a 17-year-old guy and there's this guy who we will call Jake. He's 17 years old and I've known this dude for years, ever since we went to the same primary school. But honestly, I only really started to get close with him within the past year, all the way to the point where I had a crush on him. He asked me out, I said yes, and we'd been dating for maybe only a month when this happened. So I have this friend, we'll call her Maddie, and she's also 17, and Maddie is plus sized. Not like it matters, and I hadn't assumed it would matter to Jake either, especially considering that she's been nothing but polite to him, and also she's not the one in the relationship with him anyways. But there was a day where Jake made a joke about it to my face. It was that Wojak meme of the fridge protecting the snacks thing, where he jokingly said he was scared to approach me for a while because Maddie was like the fridge protecting me, which I would be the snack in this case. Now, I didn't let it go right away, and I asked him to explain exactly what he meant, and he just kept insisting over and over again, oh, it's just a joke, I'm just kidding. Eventually, he got frustrated that I kept pushing and admitted outright that the fridge comment was a comment on her weight because she's fat, and I swear to God, it was like every good thing I ever felt for this guy vanished. I know some people might see that as an overreaction, but I don't care. A guy making negative comments about other girls in general, even if it's in a stupid attempt to compliment me, is a glaring red flag. Never mind the fact that the comments about a close friend of mine, which makes it extra insane that he even had the guts to say this to me in the first place. But you know what? I had no issue with breaking up with him. This already wasn't a long-term relationship, and this had deeply soured my perception of him. So because of that, I felt like that was the best course of action. Now, here's where I'm wondering if I jumped too far to an extreme. On top of not wanting to date Jake anymore, I also don't want to be friends either, or even interact with him at all beyond what might be necessary. I've blocked him on everything and I'm refusing to engage with him at all. His friends have started calling me childish and petty for it because it was just one dumb joke, but my stance is this. Number one, I don't have to be friends with anyone I don't want to be friends with. Number two, Jake made a comment about my best friend's weight behind her back, and he said this to my face, thinking I would laugh with him. On top of the joke itself being some weird incel rhetoric, I refuse to get involved with that, and I think it speaks to what other kind of crap he says in private that he thinks is funny. And number three, I see it as being extra insulting to Maddie if I remain friendly with a guy who was so comfortable saying rude crap about her. I have no interest in keeping up a friendship with him as it is, especially if it means potentially hurting her or losing my friendship with her. I've been close to her for years, and she's the best, most fun, and most intelligent person I know. But still, I will concede that it was just one comment intended as a joke. I mean, I'm not getting back together with him for sure, but was cutting him out entirely when he still wanted to be friends too far? Or am I in the right that this speaks to other potential behaviors and maybe beliefs as well? I have no idea if I'm jumping too quickly to conclusions, which is honestly very possible. I mean, I am prone to do that, especially as this is a situation that has personally angered me a lot. I feel literally insane right now with how hostile his friends are being to me about this, and at this point I just don't know what to do. Okay, in my opinion, I think what you did was very mature. Seriously, the fact that this guy was like, oh, your friend's fat and I'm gonna make fun of her for it. That's incredibly inappropriate. It's also very immature. I don't blame you for breaking up with him. This doesn't sound like a good guy, and it kind of seems like he has a lot of growing up to do. So no, you're not the jerk. I don't think these are good people. I don't think these are the kind of people you want to be around, and I think cutting him and his friends off was completely understandable, and in my opinion, it was really smart. Am I the jerk for refusing to massage my male professor when when he asked privately, because the way he went about doing this was really creepy and kind of set off some red flags. And at this point, I just don't know what to do. Here's what happened. To start things off, I'm a psychology major, and for the past few months, I've been doing relaxation massages on the side to make some extra money for rent and school. Well, last week, my one professor who's in his mid-50s privately messaged me after seeing my Instagram story. He said he's been having really bad shoulder pain and even offered to pay me $300 for a session at his house. And when I saw this, I immediately felt uncomfortable, and I just politely declined, saying that I only take clients through proper bookings and I don't do private home visits with people I know from school. He then replied by saying, "It's just a massage, don't overthink it," and has been a bit cold in lectures ever since then. Well, one of my classmates who knows about it thinks I'm overreacting and turning down easy money. I really feel like I set a healthy boundary, but now I'm worried it might affect my grade or my class experience. So seriously, am I the jerk here? Because I really just don't know if I made a mistake or not. Oh my gosh, this is a giant walking red flag, dude. Your professor was looking for something way more than just a massage. First off, why is he stalking you on Instagram? Can we talk about that for a second? Your professor in his mid-50s who's teaching a class that you're taking, one of probably like, I don't know, 50 students, suddenly just pops up in your DM? Like, what are we talking about? Why is he looking you up on Instagram? That's creepy and that's weird. I don't care what you say. And also, like, let's look at the facts here. He's paying you probably way more than you usually get an hour, and he's saying, yeah, come to my house and give me a massage. Like, that's a 2-for-1 special when it comes to strikes, because this guy is definitely hoping something else happens, if you know what I mean. And I don't think it's just gonna be a shoulder massage. I think Mr. Psychology Professor is looking for just a little bit of extra, if you know what I'm talking about. Like, holy crap, this guy could get a massage for like, I don't know, maybe like $75 if I were to guess, at like some crappy place down the street. But no, he wants his student to do it. And you know what? Oh, he's such a generous person. He's gonna pay you $300. He did that as bait so he could get you to his house. Like, holy crap, this is inappropriate. So no, you're not the jerk for refusing to massage this guy. This guy literally offered you $300 without knowing any of your prices. That's crazy in my opinion, and it's absolutely unacceptable. Am I overreacting for wanting to call off my wedding? All because of the way my fiancé treated me on vacation. Because for me, this felt like a giant red flag, and it's making me rethink pretty much everything. And now I really just don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so just as a prelude, my family situation is complicated to say the least. So I really have a terrible reference point for healthy long-term relationships if I'm being completely honest. My parents have been divorced 5 times between the both of them. My dad's been divorced twice and my mom 3 times. And if that doesn't give you a good insight into what I'm going to describe, then I don't know what else will. Anyways, the reason for this post is that me, a 31-year-old male, and my fiance who's 30 years old, just got back from a vacation to celebrate her graduation from college and her getting a job in her field. We have been together for 6 years, and as she is an immigrant to the United States, with none of her credits transferring over, she has been in college for 8 years to get her degree. I began planning and budgeting 2 trips back in January to Tampa and to LA, and once I had rough budgets and itineraries, I showed them off to her, and I let her pick which trip she would rather go on. I have a pretty good job, but with supporting both of us while in school, and our wedding coming up later this year, I was only able to budget a 5-day, 4-night trip to either location. Once I showed her both options, she immediately picked LA, which is absolutely not a surprise, and then she began adding in her own ideas for what to do. After that, I booked everything for the trip, and besides a slight hiccup in getting our passport cards, we were ready to go and got there on the first day bright and early at like 9 in the morning. Now, the first day went fantastic, and we hit more than what we wanted to do on that day, but the real issue really started on day 2. I had just drove us over to Santa Monica to have breakfast before we explored the pier. We got seated outside on their patio, and the very second that the waiter left, she turned to me and actually started to grill me about the length of the vacation. She looked at me and said, "Why only 5 days? You only did it because you're used to white people holidays, aren't you? It's a waste of money to come here for only 5 days. It's so stupid." And she really only stopped when the waiter came by to like take our order. Thankfully, the restaurant was fairly empty, so it wasn't too public. But still, I could tell people walking by could overhear our conversation. When I asked why she was only bringing this up now, she just said that she was too busy with school to look at the itinerary, even though she had made a ton of changes to the plan. And if I'm being honest, it really just set the tone for the rest of the vacation. She would bring it up anytime we were stuck in traffic, which, I mean, this is Los Angeles we're talking about, so this was near constant. Or she would talk about it while waiting in line for the Getty or the Griffith Observatory. When I didn't take pictures to her liking, she would sulk and then tell me there isn't enough time for me to take this many bad photos. But regardless, I still tried to have a great time, and we did a ton of stuff in the days that we had. But still, it was a miserable cloud over every hour that passed. But now, coming back and thinking on it, it seems insanely disrespectful and very rude to yell at your fiancé that planned, booked, and paid for the trip, you know, the one that was cross-country to celebrate your graduation, all because it wasn't as long as you wanted it to be. I have tried to talk to her about it, but her response is to say, "How lucky are you that I am so good, this is what you have to complain about," which honestly makes me question committing the rest of my life to be with her. There have been other things too, obviously, that are in line with this, but I'm just making this post because as someone who has seen so many failed relationships in my family, and with no time for a therapist, I'm just a guy checking on whether canceling a wedding over this is even remotely in line. Because seriously, at this point, I don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, I don't think you should cancel your wedding over this. Like, this is a stretch if you're like, oh, you didn't like the vacation and you were being rude, time to not get married. Like, I don't know, that's a jump in my opinion. Because sure, she does sound like a miserable person and very ungrateful, but like, maybe there's other redeeming qualities. I don't know. I don't think this should be like the one benchmark of like, oh, I'm not marrying this woman. There could have been so many other factors that are going into this. Like, I don't know. In my opinion, I think this shouldn't be the reason why you're not wanting to marry her anymore. But if anything, definitely let it be the reason why you're questioning it. Because dude, that is a gut instinct you don't want to ignore. Like, hold on to that one, bro. You really need to make sure that this is right for you. Because you said it yourself, you don't want to like get married to someone you're going to be miserable with. I know I wouldn't want to do that. Like, holy crap. Because if anything, just let this be a silver lining of like, hey, I need to reconsider this relationship instead of making it like the make or break, because I think that would be very unwise. My entitled mother is trying to hijack my wedding as she says that the dress I want to get for my wedding simply doesn't match the vision that she has, putting me in a situation where I feel not only judged but incredibly frustrated as well, because right now I really don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I'm the oldest child, and the parents that I grew up with versus the parents my sister and brother grew up with are completely different types of parents. They are so strict and controlling, with me especially. So I'm getting married and I'm very anxious about wedding dress shopping. I've lost 70 pounds to try and get in shape, and I thought I would pop into this little dress store to check it out because my beautiful loving niece told me her bestie works there. So I figured maybe I would be comfortable with her best friend when it comes to dress fitting, because honestly I fear going with my mom because she is so judgy and just full of body shaming. So my sister and I walk in and are greeted by this adorable girl, and she just immediately makes me feel welcomed and accepted. And on top of that, I ended up liking a few dresses to try on. Like, this was totally random and just not planned at all. I put on a white one which was pretty, but I didn't feel like myself. It was just way too pure for my heavy metal loving soul. Then she had this new black one. I put it on and all of a sudden I could see everything. The bridesmaids color theme, what the men should wear, and it's just like everything came together. I fell in love with the black one and felt so confident in it. Like, this is the one that I can marry my best friend in. So I FaceTimed my mother-in-law because she's always great and supportive. Then I felt guilty for not FaceTiming my actual mother. And let me just tell you something, that was an absolute mistake. She immediately got sad and jealous and felt left out, even though there was nothing to really be left out on, since this was a random thing, and it was just a thing my little sister and I did in the spur of the moment. Like, we literally just said to ourselves, hey, this looks nice, I've got 10 minutes, why not, let's give it a try. It wasn't some like planned thing where we're gonna find the dress. So anyways, she ends up later saying to me that her and my dad hate the black one, and she then says to me, it's not the vision I have for you. You look like the queen of death. You're not gothic, so why wear black? It's like you're going to a funeral. We have to pick a dress we mutually agree on. I mean, where are you at? It looks like a rundown less than $2,000 type of dress. This also doesn't scream traditional wedding at all to me. And I'm like, lady, I'm getting married on a farm. There's nothing traditional about it, let alone anything in my life. She also got mad at my poor dad, who wasn't even there, by the way. And the only reason I even called her in the first place was to at least involve her just a little bit, but boy, did that backfire on me 1000%. She also keeps using my wedding as an excuse to go out and work on her campaigns, and she's always like, oh, I'm doing this so I can help you with your wedding. And it's like, are you kidding me? I didn't ask for a single penny from you, and you've also not offered anything. So please stop using my wedding as some kind of excuse as to why you are leaving the house all the time and not working anymore. For reference, she retired her business early and now doesn't work, and she's like going through a midlife crisis or something like that. Now she keeps referring to my wedding as her vision and what she sees for me. She then says to me, later on, I don't want to hear that, oh mom, you were right crap. crap. And I'm like, oh my God, this is really a conversation I'm having right now. These are actual words coming out of my mom's mouth. She is literally shaming my decision and not listening to what makes me happy. So I'm also partly in denial that this is even actually happening, but I'm also very heartbroken about it. She never says anything nice to me anymore and makes everything about her, even if she wasn't there or involved in the first place. So right now I don't know what to do. I'm thinking about buying the black dress. I mean, it is super affordable at like $200, which hey, that works for me. Then I'll go and entertain her and try on all of her dresses just to reject them and be like, oh, look at this black one, and then get that one. So seriously, this entire situation is so annoying because right now I really just don't know what to do. Holy crap, your mom is literally trying to hijack your wedding. Like, this is honestly what it sounds like. And I just love it because this is so out of touch. Like, if you want to wear a black dress for your wedding, congratulations, you can do whatever you want. This really is your day and you can make it whatever you want. I mean, I've heard of people getting married in like t-shirts and jeans. Like, dude, this can be whatever you want to make it to be. And I think you've got the right attitude. You're like, okay, we're getting married on a farm, dude. Like, seriously, it doesn't have to be that crazy. And plus, you can customize it however you want. So if I was in your shoes, I would not let my mom take over this wedding. And with that, I say get the dress that you want. If you want to get a black dress and have like a death metal wedding, then dude, go for it. I think that sounds really cool and that would be a fantastic thing to see. Because if you bend to what your mom wants, I guarantee that you're going to regret this and really hate your life. Because she definitely does not sound like a nice person at all. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. An entitled Karen snaps at me after I correct her child when he started banging on my cash register, as she said I had no right to talk to him like that, even though she was doing nothing to make things right. Here's what happened. A few months ago, I was working as a cashier at a supermarket. It was a slow day, not many customers around, when I suddenly hear the screams of a child somewhere across the store. He looked about 5 or 6 years old, throwing a full-on temper tantrum. His mom was trying to calm him down by buying him whatever he wanted, but the more she gave him, the louder he screamed for more. Now, I was silently praying they wouldn't end up in my register, but of course, the universe said, nope, you're gonna take care of this. I then sighed as the mother and her demon child walked over to my checkout line. The boy was holding a box of crayons, and after scanning everything with my best fake smile I could possibly give, all that was left was the crayons themselves. The mom then turned to him and said, come on, sweetie, let the nice lady scan your crayons. Mommy will give them right back. I even tried to convince him too, but he just started screaming and crying even louder. The mom tried replacing the crayons with something else, but he threw it across the counter, almost hitting me, and started punching the register machine. Now, I'm responsible for everything that happens at my station. So I looked at him and I firmly said, hey, and that's it. All I said was hey to this kid. And you know what? He froze, he stopped screaming, stopped crying, and just stood there completely silent. But guess who wasn't happy? Yeah, that's right, it's the mom. She glared at me and said, don't talk to him like that, he is just a child. I really wanted to reply by saying, exactly, that's why you, the adult, should be showing him how to behave. But instead, I just bit my tongue and I finished the transaction. Afterwards, my coworkers were trying not to laugh and told me I'd probably be in trouble with the department manager. But when I told him what happened, he just said to me, don't worry about it. Next time, just call for me or one of the other supervisors to handle it. So at least someone had common sense that day because this entire scenario was so weird. Okay, if you're one of those parents out there who literally never disciplines your child and then gets upset when someone else tries to do it, you are a terrible parent. You're teaching this kid bad manners and they're absolutely being reinforced when you do nothing to stop it. I don't care how destructive they are, I don't care about any of that. It can all be fixed as long as you stay firm. And I am absolutely willing to die on that hill, like I do not care. And no, I'm not talking about those kids who have some kind of like disorder or something like that. That's completely different. If there's things outside of their control, I completely understand. But if they are a healthy kid that absolutely is of sound mind and they still act like that and you encourage that by not disciplining them, then guess what? You're the problem here and I don't care what you have to say. So good for the original poster for absolutely shutting this kid down, but shame on this mom for being like, wow, he is just a child, don't talk to him like that, because that's obnoxious and she's only doing that kid a massive disservice. Am I the jerk for giving my mom her car back after I told her that I could no longer make payments on it? And despite the fact that this car is in her name, she's starting to freak out as she says she can't afford the payment and is now demanding that I do it instead, putting me in a really weird situation because right now I really don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. To start things out, I'm 19 years old and I'm 27 weeks pregnant, which means lately me and my partner, who's a 20-year-old male, have been discussing ways that we can cut back on costs. One of his biggest concerns was car payments, as I have been paying my my mom $200 every month for my car ever since I was 16 years old. The deal was that if I was going to drive it, I would have to pay the car payment, but the car is in her name. Now the problem is that the car is not reliable at all. The transmission went out last year, it got replaced, and then it's gone out again. Not to mention the motor needs to be replaced and a lot of other things. We started doing the math and things would be a lot easier for us if we just had one car payment, namely his. Plus, his car would be safer for the baby when she is here. I tried talking to my mom about giving her the car back, but she told me that that wasn't a possibility. When I asked why, she said it would royally screw her over. Well, it turns out that she still owes the bank about $9,000 on that car, even though she bought the car almost 4 years ago for $12,000, and she can't afford $200 a month. I told her that I couldn't either, and the deal was that I would pay for the car if I'm driving it. So since I'm not driving it, I'm not paying for it. Well, now she isn't even talking to me, which is even less than she already was before, and has started telling family members that I screwed her over, which I guess if what she's saying is true, I kind of did, but I don't think I'm wrong for that. I have to think about my future kid and making sure they're safe. Now, there are a lot of other issues that tie into this, but that's the main point of the story. So seriously, am I the jerk for giving the car back? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, if this is in your mom's name and she was literally only using you for a car payment, then in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk. Like, you didn't buy the car. It's not your car. You've only been using it as long as you've been paying it. And from the sounds of it, it kind of seems like she was screwing you over to an extent. Like, the car was breaking down all the time. It literally had a transmission break twice. And she's trying to sit there and be like, oh, come on, you're screwing me over. I can't afford to pay $200 a month. Well, it's like, I'm sorry, but I can't do that either. Plus, it's not my car, so I don't know what to tell you. So no, in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk. I think she put herself in this situation by not managing her money properly and literally by giving you a crappy car, which in my opinion is not fair, especially considering that you're pregnant. Am I the jerk for asking my brother to pay my dental bill after his harmless prank literally broke my tooth in half? Because right now, even my own parents are siding with him, saying that I need to let it go and not be so money obsessed, which is really pissing me off and putting me in a situation where I really just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. I'm a 24-year-old female and I was visiting my family last weekend, and my brother decided to pull a prank on me. He's always been the type who thinks he's hilarious, even when no one else does. Well, while I was drinking a water bottle, he snuck up behind me and smacked the bottom of it hard. So basically, the bottle hit my face. I then heard a crack immediately. My front tooth chipped pretty badly and it really hurt. Well, at this point, I started crying and my parents rushed over to me. My brother apologized at first, but then started laughing, saying it was just a joke and that I was being dramatic. I then had to go to an emergency dentist that same day, and the bill was around $850 because I needed bonding done. When I sent my brother the bill and asked him to pay it, since it was literally his fault, he got defensive and said, I didn't mean to break your tooth, it was an accident. You can't seriously expect me to pay that much for something you could have avoided if you weren't so sensitive. Well, to make matters worse, my parents are siding with him, saying that I should just let it go because he didn't mean it, and he feels bad enough. But he clearly doesn't feel that bad if he's refusing to pay. Well, now my family is saying that I'm money obsessed, and that I'm holding a grudge over a joke. But I told them if it were anyone else, they would agree with me, and I'm honestly considering going no contact for a while after this. So am I the jerk here trying to get him to pay my dental bill? Because right now I'm still really pissed off. Dude, if anybody did that to me, I would lose my mind. Seriously, you're breaking a tooth off in my mouth and you're gonna be like, oh, you're too sensitive. What's the big deal? I only assaulted you. Like, does this guy hear himself at all? This is not a case of you being too sensitive. This is literally a case of him breaking your tooth. That's all this comes down to. And he wants to sit there and be like, wow, you're overreacting. Not to mention your family taking his side for some stupid reason. Like, what's going on? You're not being money obsessed. You literally were assaulted. Like, this is a big difference, man. So no, he needs to pay that bill. You're definitely not the jerk for sending it his way, and the fact that anybody's taking his side, in my opinion, is absolutely crazy. Am I the jerk for not telling my mom my friend's name, as I knew that she was going to try and use this against me by judging my friends incorrectly? Because after I said no, my mom literally called me 50 times and is now giving me the silent treatment as a result of all of this, thus putting me in a situation where I am incredibly pissed off and very annoyed, because now I feel like I'm at a standstill and I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. I'm a 21-year-old female and I live on campus and have an agreement with my mom that I'll tell her where and when I'm going if I'm going out. A month ago, I told her I was going going to hang out with a friend who's also 21. She kept prying for where I was going, how long I'd be out, and how many people would come with me, and how safe the area would be. Now, I willingly gave her the information so that I could just get to where I needed to be. That is, until she asked for my friend's name. I always hate that she assigns biases against my friends based on what race she thinks their name is. I've always blatantly refused to give out names and explained that I don't like when she makes assumptions of my friends. Well, I shut her down when she asked for my friend's name, and as a result, she called me over 50 times. She said she needed the name for safety reasons in case I went missing, but I told her that didn't make any sense since I have my phone and she already knew where I was. I texted her that I was busy because I had arrived and I wanted to enjoy myself, and I said that I would call her later. Well, she ignored this and continued calling me, so I just blocked her. I did not call her back after the event because I was too angry that she disrespected my no, as well as my attempt to set a boundary. And you know what? She has been ignoring me ever since for the past month. I then came home yesterday for a medical appointment, and the silent treatment has become more obvious. She does not speak to me directly and asked my dad to text me instead, asking me things like, oh, if I'm hungry, and letting me know that she's left food on the table. She ignored my birthday a few days ago, but also left a birthday gift in my room. Otherwise, she's been ignoring my text messages, and I just continue to act normally despite her silence. I then overheard her calling my dad that she wants me to apologize first. I get that she worries, but this feels more like control than concern. I didn't feel comfortable giving her my friend's name, and I didn't like being called over 50 times after I said no. So am I the jerk here, or is my mom really the one at fault? Because right now, I just don't know what to do. Okay, seriously, I think you hit the nail on the head. She doesn't give a crap about where you're going. She just wants absolute control over your life and literally is doing it in the worst way possible. And you know what? Why does she need to know where you're going on campus? That is so dumb. I know if my mom acted like that, I'd be like, no, I'm not gonna be doing this. This is so dumb. I literally don't have time for this and I am an adult, so I'm gonna decline. Which, by the way, that's well within your right. It's completely normal for you to be like, no, I'm not agreeing to this. And the fact that she's judging the people based off of how their name sounds, like her trying to guess what race your friends are based on their name, that is crazy, dude. I wouldn't give out names either. That is some super sketchy behavior that honestly, I would absolutely shut down as well. So no, you're not the jerk. You didn't do anything wrong. I personally think your mom is being very stupid, and the fact that she's like, no, you apologize first, to me shows that she has absolutely zero remorse for this, and instead is just this emotionally immature person who can't own up to her own mistakes. Am I the jerk for asking my girlfriend's brother what kind of man he is after he intentionally ignored our phone calls when we were trying to bring up groceries from the car? Because right now my girlfriend is kind of pissed off at me and I'm not sure if I made a mistake here. Here's what's going on. So my girlfriend and I got into a huge argument because of something I said to her younger brother. And for the sake of the story, I'll call my girlfriend Laura and her younger brother Randall. For context, Randall lives with his sister, who I'll call Anna for the sake of the story. Anna had a big grocery haul today and her van recently kicked the bucket. So Laura and I offered to take her. We drove her to the store, helped with the shopping, and loaded everything into my car. On the drive back, Randall texted Anna asking if she could pick them up some takeout on him. Well, Anna agreed, and so we made an extra stop to go get their food. The plan was, when we got to their apartment building, Randall would come down to the lobby to help us bring up all the groceries and his takeout. And by the way, this was agreed upon when we went to get the takeout because the parking is a pain in the butt and it's a lot to carry alone. So we pull up, we text him, and then we call him. But we get no answer of any kind. We then call him again, but still, we get nothing. We then parked the car properly, which meant that Anna, Laura, and myself had to make multiple trips from the parking lot to the lobby and then up to the apartment lugging all the groceries and the takeout. Now, I'm the first one to get to the door with my hands full with a box and 2 bags. I'm able to knock and he unlocks the deadbolt without even opening the door, and this really pissed me off. So I opened the door for all of us and I set the box and bags down. I then asked him what happened and he just shrugged and said, "Oh, my phone was on silent, sorry." Now, this is the second time he's pulled this exact same garbage. The last time, I gave him a sarcastic response about it. I said something like, "Oh, how convenient that you couldn't hear the phone glued to your hand." And I said that when he gave me the same lame excuse as before. But you know what? This time I was fed up. I was tired from carrying everything, and I was annoyed for Anna and Laura who just accept this from him. I looked at him and I said, "Seriously, Randall, what kind of man sits on his butt while his sister and everyone else carries his responsibilities for him?" Well, when I said that, Randall didn't say anything in return and just left the room. But Laura immediately shot me a death glare player. After we left the apartment and we were back in the car, she laid into me. She said I was out of line, that it wasn't my place to talk to her brother like that, and that my comment was toxic and emasculating. In fact, we argued the entire way home. I told her that she and her family coddle him way too much, and that he's never going to learn if no one holds him accountable. When we got home and the both of us cooled down just a little bit, I explained my side more calmly. I said that what he did was deeply disrespectful to her, to Anna, who houses him, and to me. He knew we would end up doing the work if he ignored his phone, and he made that choice because he's lazy and there are never any consequences. And Laura was able to see my point of view in this one, or at least that's what she tells me. But I've really started to think about this, and I'm kind of wondering if I'm the jerk here. Was I out of line for saying what I said? Because right now I'm honestly still very frustrated and I just don't know what to do. Dude, there's no way in the world I would ever be okay with this kind of behavior. Like seriously, Randall absolutely did this on purpose. He skated by responsibility once again by ignoring it and being like, oh yeah, sorry, my phone was on silent, my bad. But it's like, dude, you're lying. You just didn't want to do it, and so you said, oh, I'm gonna put my phone away and just wait for them to come up. And honestly, if this really is some kind of theme and like a common thing that happens all the time, then yeah, calling it out seems like the only thing you can do. Like, this is not a child we're talking about. This is a 22-year-old man. This is someone who absolutely should know better and should at least try to be a little bit more responsible. So no, in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk at all, and I think you did the right thing here. Today, I need to confess that I am kind of the reason that my coworker got fired, as a string of events happened in a way that I never expected, making me feel absolutely horrible as a result. Here's how it all went down. Okay, so this was like 3 years ago. I had become acquainted with a new hire who I will call Ken for the sake of the story. He was in his mid-30s, he was ex-military, and overall he was a good worker. He had started at the company to kind of get on his feet from what I could tell, and he struggled a bit financially. He even asked me for money sometimes, and me, being a bleeding heart softie, I would sometimes help him out when I could. Now, I had another coworker who I'll call Sue, who I had also gotten close to, and it's important to note that she and Ken did not get along at all. From my understanding, Sue just didn't really have the patience to train him when he had first started at the job, and at one point made a comment that resulted in a verbal exchange between the two, and ever since then, they steer clear of each other. So, one day Sue comes up to me and confides that she's secretly dating one of the supervisors, and I'm genuinely just so happy for her. She was in the process of getting out of a toxic marriage, and I was excited about the development. Ken and I were then scheduled to work together later that day, and me, feeling a bit gossipy, decided to tell him all about it. Now, I figured that since he was a guy, he wouldn't really care about the information, but holy crap, I was completely wrong, because the next thing I know, he made some snarky remark alluding to the relationship in front of other employees and the supervisor Sue was seeing. The next thing I know, Sue is coming up to me having a breakdown, because human resources was now getting involved. She then asked if I had told anybody, and I said no, because I really had not meant for things to escalate like they did. And you know what? Luckily she believed me, saying that she told a few other people and maybe someone else overheard. Well, by the next day, Ken was escorted out by security and fired for harassment or something like that. And I truly felt horrible. I mean, I still do. But with all things considered, I never told Sue the truth, and honestly, at this point, I never plan to. Okay, this is a hard lesson for pretty much everybody involved. Not just the original poster, but also Sue. First things first, if you really are dating someone in the office, it's probably better to like keep things under wraps for a while, especially if you want to enjoy your job. Because holy crap, even if you're good friends with someone, chances are they're gonna tell someone else about this and then it's gonna spread like the plague. So I just don't understand why Sue went to this person, was like, oh yeah, I'm dating a supervisor, don't say anything to anybody, and then really thought that they were just gonna keep that quiet. Like seriously, that's so dumb. Why say anything in the first place? Because Sue has gotta know that's gonna look really weird, right? Because I don't know about you, but anybody who's dating some kind of like upper management is not viewed very favorably in the eyes of pretty much everybody below them. But it's also really funny to me that Sue's like, did you say anything? I don't know what happened. Because if I was the original poster, I absolutely would lie as well. I would be like, nope, I don't know, I didn't say anything, it's not me. And I would happily whistle past that graveyard, like good lord. So yeah, this is just one big mess up after another, and honestly, this could have been avoided if Sue just literally kept her mouth shut. Because if she had said nothing, then nothing would have happened. Ken would have kept his job, Sue would have been happy, and everything would have been fine. But instead, she wanted to tell someone to like brag about it, I guess, and that caused a domino effect that I'm sure nobody was expecting. Today, I found out that my boyfriend has a secret 1-year-old daughter, as I literally found out about this from a sibling of his while I was in the middle of having dinner with his family. And now I feel like I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place because my boyfriend and I are still teenagers, and I can confidently say that I am definitely not ready to be a stepmom. Here's what's happening. Okay, to start things out, I'm a 15-year-old female, and recently I've been dating this guy that I'll call Derek for the sake of the story. He's 17 years old, and our relationship had been going perfect. He bought me flowers, took me out on cute dates, remembered small details about me, and calls me beautiful every single day. One day I was having dinner with him, his mom, and his sister when suddenly his sister asked me, "So Derek, how's the baby doing?" And I didn't think anything of it at first, thinking maybe she meant a cousin or something like that, until she turned to me and joked, "Wow, you're the world's youngest stepmother." And it's at that moment that it finally clicked. I raised an eyebrow and I looked at him and I said, "You have a baby?" And he quickly grabbed my hand and practically dragged me to his room and started explaining how it was an accident, but he has a 1-year-old from it. Now, at first I was supportive and I told him it was okay and that I understood, but that slowly started to dissolve when he started to text me and call me on the regular. He would ask me to watch the baby or take her places, and even wanted me to buy her diapers and formula. Now, I understand that he may need help, but I'm only 15 years old, and he has a job as well and a mother. After about 2 weeks of this, he asked me to cancel my softball game to watch his daughter, all while he would go out with his friends. And that's the moment when I snapped and I told him, "I'm not her mom. She is your responsibility and I want nothing to do with her. I'm only 15 years old, and if you're not okay with that, then I want nothing to do with you either." Well, he then called me a jerk and a bunch of other cruel names. And in that moment, I really felt bad for his daughter. I mean, she didn't ask to be born, but I refused to give up my teenage years taking care of someone else's child while her father goes to parties all the time. What should I do? Okay, I cannot believe what I just read. That is probably the craziest thing I've seen in a long time. Because holy crap, what do you mean he has a 1-year-old daughter? This guy knocked up some chick from high school at the age of 16, and he's trying to throw this on you to be like, "Hey, can you watch my daughter while I go partying?" Like, dude, what are you talking about? You guys are teenagers. You should not be having that kind of responsibility on your shoulders. Especially for the original poster. Like, they're 15 years old. They've only been dating for a little bit. Like, what's going on right now? Like, dude, you're only 15. You should not be dealing with this yet. That is way too young, especially from a guy who, for all intents and purposes, would probably get you pregnant as well. So holy crap, if I was in your shoes, I would run for the hills. I would dump him, say this is not working, and move on with my life. Because this entire scenario is incredibly sketchy and you can do way better than this. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for telling my dad that I don't forgive him and I never will, even on his deathbed? Because after having a lifetime of him treating me like crap, he only reached out to me when he realized that he was going to kick the bucket, forcing me to make a choice that honestly was incredibly hard. Here's what's going on. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I grew up with a father who was emotionally mistreating me for most of my life. He constantly belittled me, called me names, compared me to others, and made me feel like I was worthless. When I was a teenager, I struggled with anxiety and depression, and instead of helping me, he would say things like, "Oh, you're just being dramatic." Or he would say, "Oh, you'll never survive the real world if you can't handle me." When I finally left for college, I went no contact for years. My mom still tried to keep in touch with me, and while I maintained some contact with her, I never reconnected with him. He never apologized, not even once. Recently, I got a call from my mom saying that my dad's health had declined drastically, and now apparently he's in the hospital. She said that he's been asking to see me and wants to make things right before it's too late. Now, I hesitated for days, but eventually I went. When I saw him, he looked frail and weak, but as soon as I sat down, he started crying. He said to me, "I know I wasn't a good dad, but I want your forgiveness so I can have peace." But you know what? I told him calmly, "You don't get to do this now. You had decades to apologize and you never cared until you were dying. I don't forgive you and I never will." He then started crying harder and my mom looked furious with me. She later called me heartless and said I'd regret this for the rest of my life. But honestly, I feel relieved. Like I finally said what I needed to. I'm not angry anymore, but instead I'm just done. Even still, I can't help but wonder if I was too cruel. So am I at fault for the things I said to my dad, especially considering the way he treated me growing up? Because at this point, I don't know if this is a mistake or not. Okay, honestly, I can only imagine having that kind of upbringing and then being met with years of mistreatment and him refusing to apologize. Like, sure, this guy's passing away on his deathbed, literally in a hospital, and he's trying to make things right, but it's like, dude, you could have done this so many decades earlier. Because at that point, it really is too late. Sure, he feels guilty about it and he wants to find some kind of peace, but the original poster has never had any peace with this situation. They've literally had a lifetime of their dad treating them like garbage. So I just can't stand the way he's acting. Him trying to make things right, even though he knew what he did was wrong probably years ago. And someone in the comments section said it best, because I agree with this so much. They basically said it's always the people who are cruel and unusual towards you when you're a child, who have no conscience and make no effort to make things right, are the first person right at the last second when they're about to die to call you up and be like, "I want to make things right." Like, I'm sorry, this is not some kind of movie. You're not the person who deserves closure in this situation. It's your child that you treated like crap for years. So with all things considered, I don't think you're the jerk. This is obviously a very sensitive situation, and I'm sure this feels like a raw nerve. I mean, everything must be coming back to you like all at once, and I don't blame you for being frustrated. But regardless, I really hope you find some kind of like solace and like closure in this situation, because this seriously sounds awful, and I'm so sorry that you went through this. Today, I got some petty revenge by tracking down and confronting the Lyft driver that stole my AirPods, as I literally humiliated him in front of his entire family as they were trying to eat together at Chuck E. Cheese. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, I was visiting some friends in another city, and I dropped my AirPods in the back of a Lyft leaving a bar. I realized the next morning, and I sent the guy a lost item report, and he claims that he doesn't have them. So I just go back home and I forgot about it. Well, that is until about a day later, when I see in my Find My Device app that they were being charged and actively used, and I see them moving all around a city as a driver would. Now, I'm not usually a spiteful person, but that was brazen theft. Well, unlucky for him, I had some free time, and 2 weekends later, I tracked him down in a car with those same friends. The Find My Device app leads us to a Chuck E. Cheese, and we found his car in the parking lot. I then explained the situation to the security guard, and I showed him a picture of the Lyft driver. The security guard led us right to him, and I asked him straight up what his name was, to which he confirmed and nervously replied, "Yeah, that's me." I then said to him quite bluntly, "You stole my AirPods." Well, as a result of all of this, his family had to all leave the Chuck E. Cheese to his car parked in the lot, and I got to watch him put them awkwardly back in the case and hand me back my AirPods. Now, I did feel bad, but come on, doing that is absolutely insane, so this guy absolutely deserved it. Oh man, this is one of those situations where it's like, man, I would lose my mind if someone did that. Seriously, just do the right thing, man. There is so much tracking capabilities out there for items that it's just not worth stealing, dude. He should have just been a good person and been like, yeah, I've got them, they're in my car, I can get them to you. But instead, he wanted to be a common thief, leading to him getting embarrassed in a way that I think he will never forget. Today, I participated in a nuclear revenge that honestly I never wanted to get mixed up in the first place, putting me in a situation where I was able to help my friend out in a way that he really needed. Here's how it all went down. Okay, let me start off by saying that this was something I didn't ask to be involved in. Recently, I helped expose my friend's ex-girlfriend who was cheating on him. She had ended their relationship with the classic, "Oh, I want to be friends," followed by the classic line of, "We should just be friends." My friend asked her a simple question, okay, who is the other guy? And she responded by asking how he knew, the same predictable reaction in these situations. She eventually admitted that she was dating my cousin. The problem is that both she and my cousin are on probation, and in New York State, anyone on probation must avoid associating with others who are in trouble with the law. Now, my friend was understandably upset. He had invested almost a year into this relationship and had helped care for her 4-year-old autistic son, truly treating the child as if he were his own. He then called and asked if I could help even the score, since I had completed 6 years of probation myself. I then smiled and told him that I could absolutely explain the rules without any problem, which I definitely did. Subsequently, he went to both her probation officer and my cousin's officer to report their relationship. He also informed them about a firearm possession, which constitutes a probation violation. Then he mentioned to me that she was selling her food stamps, namely $50 in benefits for $50 in cash. And he actually asked me if this was illegal. And when I heard this, I just laughed. And I explained that yeah, if she was caught, she could permanently lose her benefits, and whoever was helping her would also be breaking the law. He then proceeded to report her to the Department of Social Services for fraud, then to the Social Security Administration for misappropriating her son's benefits. Finally, he reported her to her landlord for not paying rent, describing how the apartment was filled with trash and significantly damaged. And now, after all this, she's facing potentially 3 years in jail between the probation violations, the food stamp fraud, and pretty much everything else she's been doing. She's losing her financial support, her son's benefits, and possibly custody of her son. Now, I feel bad for the child, but her pattern of mistreating people and her general behavior is honestly something that simply could not continue any longer. Oh man, this is some deep crap. First of all, this is one of those situations where yeah, she does not sound like a winner and she absolutely needed to be put in her place. And this is not in some kind of like, ooh, I got revenge kind of way. This is a situation where she is literally breaking the law, and that is incredibly concerning, especially with a kid involved. So I think you did the right thing with all things considered, because this lady was not doing good things and she absolutely deserved to get punished. Am I the jerk for making my older coworker miss a major client meeting, all because I refused to cover his shift for free at the last second? Because right now he's saying that I sabotaged him, and at this point I honestly don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, to start things out, I'm a 19-year-old female, and I work part-time as a receptionist at a small firm while also taking night classes. My coworker, who I'll call Mark for the sake of the story, is 48 years old and the office manager. He is super disorganized, and our front desk is just the two of us. I gave him my academic schedule 3 months ago, so he would know exactly when I can and cannot work. Now, Mark has the habit of calling out last minute, usually citing some stomach issues issues and pressuring me to cover his shift. He leans really hard on the line of being a team player and that you need initiative for advancement. A while back, he even had me work 12 hours straight unpaid, and I missed a critical college presentation because of that. Well, I documented it and emailed Human Resources saying that I wouldn't cover unscheduled shifts overlapping with school unless it was approved and paid. Well, yesterday, 2 hours before a huge client meeting, Mark called hysterically asking me to drop my last lecture to cover his shift. And of course, there was no mention of pay. He tried guilt-tripping me about all the flexibility I owed him and said if anything went wrong, it would be my fault. But you know what? I stood firm. I told him that I couldn't come and reminded him it's a management problem, not a staff shortage. Well, Mark missed the meeting, the client was upset, and now he's spreading it around that I sabotaged him. So seriously, am I the jerk for not rearranging my academic life just to bail him out? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, not only are you not the jerk, but this also sounds like a fantastic new email for Human Resources. You refused to work for no pay and to cover this at the last second, and now because of that, Mark's retaliating against you, actively spreading lies and starting a smear campaign. Like, I don't know if you know this, but that is absolutely not okay. That's incredibly unprofessional and unethical, and there's no reason you should ever put up with that. So no, you are not the jerk. You do not work for free. This is not a charity. And by the way, they had better pay you back for those 12 hours. Like, my God, if they didn't, I absolutely would be going somewhere else, because these people are taking advantage of you and you do not need that in the slightest. Would I be the jerk if I didn't let my sister move into my new apartment just so she and her partner can save money before getting their own place? Because right now this all feels very last minute and it's putting me in a really weird situation. And at this point, I really don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so yesterday I received a message from my sister, who I'll call Kim for the sake of the story. She asked if she could move in with me for a few months because her and her husband decided that they want to move out of the country. To do that, they need to save money. So they decided to not renew their lease and stay with family for a bit. Kim's husband is staying with his sister, who I'll call Julia, and Kim can't stay with Julia because Julia has mold in her house. Kim's 1-year-old son is dealing with some health problems, and living in a moldy home would make things worse for my nephew. Our mom's house also has mold too, and Kim's working with a specialist right now to help out with his health conditions. She then told me that it would only be for 3 months, because according to her, after 3 months, he will be healed enough to live in a home with mold in it, and they will then go back to Julia's house. Now, as for my new apartment, I haven't even had the meeting to sign the lease yet, but it is scheduled and the plan is to move in next month. The first main thing is that I love living alone. Having my own safe space to myself means everything to me. So at first I was like, no way. But I am very much a people pleaser, so I really felt bad saying no. Like, is it worth saying no to protect my peace? The second thing is that she has not brought up any kind of way to help around the apartment, such as payments or anything like that. So it seems like she's expecting to be in my space for at least 3 months with her child for free. The third thing is that their lease ends November 31st. And I just have a lot of questions. Like, when did they realize they were going to do this? What's the plan? What's the budget? Why did you wait so last minute to tell me about this? And many more questions. I told her that I would have to take some time to think about it and that I have a lot of questions that I need answered. We are going to have a more in-depth phone call tomorrow about it, but I just wanted some outside perspective because right now I'm not sure what to do. Okay, in my opinion, this seems like a last-minute decision because they know you're going into a brand new apartment. And you've got the right mindset here. They're not talking about paying you back or paying to stay there or anything like that. And that, in my opinion, is a big red flag. Like, if I'm asking to stay at someone's place for 3 months, I'm also asking how much I can pay for rent. Because this really does seem very timely with you having a new apartment. And they probably waited till the last second and said, oh, maybe the original poster can help us out. So no, if you do say that your sister can't move in with you, I don't think you would be the jerk at all. I really don't think this is your problem, and I think, if anything, this is the result of your sister not planning properly. And for me in my life, I've always lived by the saying that someone else's lack of planning is not my emergency. My husband refuses to allow me to have any access to our shared money, as I am constantly having to justify anything that I spend in our own home, putting me in a situation where I'm really frustrated and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, I want to start off by saying that my husband is the breadwinner of the family. I'm finishing school for another degree and starting a business from home, so his income takes care of pretty much everything right now, except when I freelance, I pay for whatever my son and I need instead of asking my husband for it, but I also pay bills and give him what he thinks he might need. Now, my husband just got a bonus of over $4,000, and I asked him for $300 cash just to save it. He then asked me why, and I reiterated to have something in my own savings. You know, just a little drawer at home. He then said, "No, I don't want you spending any money on your ungrateful adult kids." I then told him that I didn't plan on it, and then he said to me, "Well, no, because we have to pay for my younger son's end of school year field trip," which, by the way, that would be $200. So when he said that, I apologized and I told him, "Okay, forget that I asked. I know that your money is your your money. He then said to me, no, it's our money. But despite that, I still have no access whatsoever. No debit, no cash, literally nothing. I'm so tired of having to ask him for $20 to $40 when I need something and having to explain what it's for, whether it's food items or personal items. I'm tired of any time extra money comes in that he's still in full control of. When I have money coming in steadily, I also pay bills. I make large payments during emergencies. I buy him gifts or things that he needs, etc. And I don't bat an eye about it because I love being able to help out. But when mine runs out, I have no access to his. So am I overreacting right now? Because this honestly is incredibly frustrating. No, you're not overreacting at all, because your husband is saying one thing but actually acting in a different way. If that money is literally for both of you, then why do you not have any access to it? Why do you have to justify everything that you're spending or buying all the time with this man? Like, that is obnoxious. I would hate that. And if anything, it kind of seems like he's financially mistreating you. Like, you really should have access to this money, especially if you're on like a joint account or something like that. So no, you're not the jerk. This is honestly really awful. And I think if I was in your shoes, I would also be pretty pissed off. My entitled shift leader tried to tell me that I couldn't go on an early break, as she said that me being in pain was not a good enough excuse. But after still recovering from surgery on my leg, I decided that enough was enough, forcing me to get revenge on these people by literally quitting in the middle of my shift on the busiest day of our week. And I'm honestly so satisfied by the way this went down. Here's what happened. Okay, so for a bit of relevant information here, back in January, I found out I had a tumor in my tibia in my left leg, and it was pretty bad. I went for an appointment with a surgeon in April, and he told me I couldn't work at that time because of a risk of snapping the bone. So I had my surgery in June and finally returned to work about 2.5 weeks ago. Even though I returned with no restrictions, I was warned I would still have to be careful because it's still fresh. And if I push myself too hard, it could end badly. So this previous Sunday, I was working, and that is our busiest day. I was a curbside shopper and was on carryout. About an hour and a half into my shift, my leg started hurting so bad that I couldn't walk. Like, I seriously wanted to cry in pain. I then asked my shift leader if I could go on my break 20 minutes early because I couldn't walk and I just needed to rest so I don't cause any problems with my leg. Well, she responded by saying, I'm in pain too. This is a team effort, and unless you have a doctor's note, you can't leave break. And by the way, I did have a doctor's note. So about 5 minutes later, she left on break anyways. Now, after taking a breath, I thought to myself, I am so done with this. I've had multiple issues with her before and nothing has ever been done about it. So after my 15-minute break, I went up to a manager and I said, I'm done, I'm quitting. And then I walked to the time clock and I clocked right out. A few minutes later, I got paged to my department and I just kind of laughed. My main boss then showed up to work a few minutes later as I got my groceries, and I was checking out as he walked by, giving me a side glance, and then he turned his head away and looked really mad at me. But after all the stuff I had to go through, I was just done. I left in the middle of my shift on our busiest day and I opened all this week. So honestly, these people deserve it because they absolutely have mistreated me for far too long. Oh man, imagine being so heartless that you have to sit there and be like, oh, you had surgery on your leg and you're now in pain? Sorry, but you can't do that if you have a doctor's note, even though the original poster literally had one. Like, are you kidding me right now? I think the funniest part is something that someone else noted, and that is that you literally quit and then bought groceries for yourself all before leaving. Like, I don't know, that's really funny in my opinion, and I just love that visual. But regardless, good for you because this job sounds like it really sucked. An entitled Karen tried to scan my badge for a discount at the store I worked at, and then tried to claim that I attacked her when I took my badge back, resulting in one of the most bizarre situations I've ever been in my entire life. Here's how it all went down. Okay, to start things out, I work part-time at the big red store. I'm at the front end with the carts, and the pay is okay if you ask me. Well, yesterday a lady pushes a mountain cart to my lane, and the total for her items ends up being about just under $300. She then spots my lanyard and says to me, hey sweetie, scan your employee discount for me, okay? I mean, we're all struggling right now. I then say to her, it's only for employee use or household. I'm sorry, but I can't do that. Now, instead of taking no for an answer, she reaches over the counter and literally grabs my badge by the clip and then shoves the barcode at the reader. And this thing beeped angry. I then take it right back from her. And as a side note, no, I was not rough with her. I literally just took it back. But when I did that, she snaps at me and says, don't you touch me. What did you just do? At this point, people are staring, my cheeks are burning, and my hands are shaky. My managers then walk up and we go to the tiny camera room that smells like dust toner. The video eventually shows her hand on my stuff clear as day. And at this point, she starts crying again. She asks for a gift card and says that I ruined her kid's birthday. It was here that the manager prints a trespass notice. She then claims that she will call corporate and get me fired. Well, later on, my manager says that she called again, saying that I apparently promised her 20% off of a microwave that was just under $30. But thankfully, corporate shut that crap down. But after all that, I definitely went home tired because I am so exhausted dealing with customers who act this way. Dude, that is bonkers to me. Seriously, how can someone act like that? Imagine being so entitled that you think you're entitled to an employee discount, but also lie and say that someone attacked you after they literally tried to get their employee badge back. That is honestly crazy to me, and I'm so sorry that happened, but also it's so nice that she got in trouble for what she did, because that kind of behavior is completely unacceptable. My entitled friend demands that I drop everything that I'm doing at work just so I can give her money so that she can get home. But after being treated like her personal ATM for quite literally the majority of our friendship, I finally have hit my breaking point as I told her I'm not doing it this time, resulting in her and her fiancé, as well as a bunch of her friends, messaging me and saying that I'm being selfish. And at this point, I really just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. I'm an 18-year-old female and I've been best friends with a girl who I'll call Amy for the sake of the story ever since I was around 14 years old. During this time, Amy had taken advantage of my niceness a lot, as I am a huge people pleaser. She constantly uses me as an unpaid therapist and an ATM, which has been really getting annoying recently. In June, right after we finished our A-levels, Amy got engaged to her boyfriend, who we will call Nate, and even though I was happy for them because she had been with him since like the 7th grade, her engagement was awful for me as she expected me to organize 3 engagement parties. One for secondary school friends, one for 6th form friends, and one for friends from our sports teams. And I was expected to bring her a gift basket worth about $200 to each one of them, as well as buying her a set of gold, which is common in our culture, for about $400, which by the way was really annoying because I ended up having to spend my entire paycheck for May and June on this, as well as dipping into my own savings. Throughout all of this, she was still going out and texting and spamming me, basically begging for money constantly. After the whole engagement party ordeal, I promised myself I wasn't going to spend any money on her that wasn't absolutely necessary, aside from birthdays and holidays, or if she was out at night and needs money for the bus or for like an Uber or something like that. Well, fast forward to today, and I was at work from like 9 o'clock until 6 o'clock p.m. At around 4:30 p.m., Amy started spam texting and calling me, but since I was on the shop floor, I didn't see it until I finished at about 6. Now, to sum up what she said in the text messages and voice notes, she said to me, "Hey, I'm out right now and I'm an hour away from my house, and it just started raining, and I have no money for the bus right now because I spent the last bit of my money getting lunch." Now, after I didn't respond, she proceeded to call me 7 times, as well as text me repeatedly the same things, saying that she couldn't ask anyone else because she was in a fight with both of her parents and fiancé, and how apparently I was being a horrible friend for not sending it to her. Now, when I clocked out and I saw the text messages, the whole situation really annoyed me because she has my location and could clearly see I was at work, and I wasn't going out of my way to ignore her. On top of that, she is literally a grown adult. She should have known not to spend her last bit of money on lunch, especially if it meant she couldn't get home afterwards. It really annoyed me, so I didn't send her the money, and I actually texted her back saying that I didn't see her text message because, I was at work, and then, you know what, I just didn't even bother sending her the money. Well, she told a handful of her friends, as well as her fiancé, the one she's supposed to be in a fight with, all about the entire situation. And of course, they all took turns texting me, saying I'm horrible for leaving her out in the cold, and that I should have sent her the money once I finished work, which has really got me wondering if I'm wrong for not sending her the money. So seriously, am I a bad friend for not sending money to my friend when she clearly needed it? Because right now, I just don't know what to do. Okay, I'm gonna say it because this is crazy to me. Your friend does not care about you. They only care about your pocketbook and the money that's in it. Seriously, that's it. This Amy chick is 100% taking advantage of you, and everybody taking her side is out of their minds. Like, think about it for a second. Why are you the only person responsible for giving her money? Like, why can't all these other people messaging you also step up and be like, "Hey, I'll help you out for once"? It just doesn't make any sense. Like, seriously. Every single one of these people are just a bunch of hypocrites in my opinion. And what she's asking of you at the age of 18 is just insane. She really wants you to throw 3 different engagement parties. Like, are you kidding me right now? That's going to cost thousands of dollars each, and I'm willing to bet you probably don't have that kind of money right now. So in my opinion, if someone really is asking this much of you, and they're not at all showing any gratitude, or in any way, shape, or form standing up for themselves and doing things on their own, then in my opinion, that's a terrible friend who is absolutely taking advantage of you. Because if you keep letting this lady walk all over you, she will happily drain your entire savings dry, and quite literally never think twice about it, because her priorities are completely mixed up, especially if she's blaming you for her not getting home. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My idiotic job literally fires me from my job, all without telling me first, instead choosing to go behind my back as they plan on reassigning me to a different department without actually telling me first. But in the end, I was able to get some really petty revenge in a way that these people definitely were not expecting. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, I do lab management for a lab. My background is not in the subjects studied in this lab, but I know the bare minimum and it doesn't get in the way of my job. I worked very hard to get where I'm at, and I have become very integral to the lab. A few months ago, I was put into a documentation role that also involved dealing with cryogenic storage. And last Friday, a meeting was held with everyone except for me, which was really strange. After the fact, a friend on my team told me that during the meeting itself, everyone was told that I would be taken off this role and it would be given to someone more knowledgeable on the subject. And obviously, this really was hurtful, and it was unprofessional of my manager to not speak to me before this. Now, there is a bit more to this story, where basically someone blamed me for ruining their experiment and doing something that I did not do. So instead of actually talking to me about it, my manager just punished me for it and undermined me to the entire team. And the best part is that my manager has still not spoken to me to officially remove me from this role. Well, towards the end of the day, I received a message from the new untrained person in this role as they were asking me to do it for them. And again, at this point, no one had ever officially told me that I was no longer in my role. Oh, and by the way, they needed it done soon so that another scientist wouldn't be here past 6 o'clock in the evening. And that person just so happened to be the person that accused me. I responded back by saying, "Oh, I'll get back to you." But you know what? I never did. And the scientist had to stay several hours longer after the fact. Now, I know this didn't fix the situation, but honestly, with all things considered, it felt incredibly nice. Okay, honestly, any manager who does something like that is a complete piece of garbage. Like, seriously, think about it for a second. They would rather talk behind your back than actually approach you and be like, "Hey, this is what's going on." Like, if I'm not right for a role at work, dude, kick me to the curb and I will find something else. Or just put me in a position that you feel is more appropriate for my talents and my skills. Like, in no way, shape, or form do I ever want to be a burden on anybody else's workplace. So yeah, this didn't really fix the situation, but I don't blame you for a second in doing what you did, because your job's attitude towards you was completely unnecessary. Am I overreacting for being pissed off at my roommate after he suddenly quit his job as soon as we moved into our new house, putting me in a really frustrating situation because I really just don't know how to handle this any longer? Here's what's going on. I'm a 23-year-old female and I moved into a small 2-bedroom house at the start of the year with my boyfriend and his buddy who I'll call Simon. When we decided to move in, we all had full-time jobs and busy schedules. So I had expected that we would all be out and about during the day and just working so that each person gets their space. It wasn't a super cheap place, so Simon pays around $10 more per week for his room, while me and my boyfriend pay like $5 less and share a room. Well, 2 weeks after we moved in, Simon announces that he is quitting his job as he doesn't like it. I was a bit concerned at first as we had literally just moved in, and it's not really what I expected, but I hoped that he would start looking and find a new job within a few weeks of quitting. And to give him credit, his previous job wasn't great, and he probably did need a break from it. Fast forward, and it's now been 8 months since Simon left his job and we all moved in. Simon has not looked for a job once, and whenever the topic of jobs comes up, he says that he doesn't really want to work. Now, Simon sits at home all day long and blasts the TV loudly. He has his own room but never goes in it and constantly sits in the communal space. I go into work most days but work from home 1 day a week, and on my work from home days, he sits there blasting the TV with loud YouTube videos or sports. The house is so small, so my desk is essentially in the same place as the communal living space, but he continues to play loud TV and sits around all day. When I came home from work, he doesn't even offer anyone the TV or even moves out of the way. He just sits there till around midnight every single night. He then wakes up at about 7 o'clock in the morning just to do it all over again. Well, as a result, I am pissed off. His presence fills me with rage, and his TV playing nonstop fills me with rage too. I have no space in this house, which is something I expected to have even a little amount of when moving in, because I was under the impression that we would all be working. Look, I'm not an angry person, but I have built so much resentment that I started to hate him entirely. How on earth can you not see how inconsiderate it is to just sit around all day long? I have lived in several shared houses before this. However, I've never been so pissed off by someone in my life. It really feels like there's just this blob sitting around there all day, and I never have peace and quiet or a second to myself. So truly, am I right to feel pissed off and angry and disrespected that he literally left his job immediately after moving in? I feel like he's getting a pretty good deal on rent. However, he never uses his room apart from like going to sleep. I understand that we all live here, but I also think that you have to be pretty stupid to not think about how it could affect the other people you're living with. I literally dream about him moving out. I mean, I've never wanted anyone to get out of my life more than this guy. So seriously, am I being overdramatic or am I justified in any way, shape, or form? Because right now I'm really pissed off. Okay, this is such a massive betrayal of trust, it's not even funny. Simon literally pulled a fast one on all of you. He said, "Oh yeah, let's move in together." And then just almost immediately says, "Okay, psych, I'm just gonna quit my job, sorry about that." And it's like, dude, what are you talking about? Are you really just gonna sit around all day and not do anything? So in my opinion, I don't blame you for being pissed off. I will say though, if he is paying his rent and he's like cleaning up after himself and being a good roommate, aside from him blasting the TV way too loud, like if he's doing everything else, then I could see this working out, but I also think some hard boundaries would really be important in this situation, especially if you want to find some kind of like common ground between the two of you. So hopefully this can work out in some kind of way, because I really would not want to live with Simon, especially if they're blasting music and just being disrespectful overall. My family treats me as an emotional crutch for my sister, and after spending nearly 2 months with her trying to help her out, especially after she lost her husband earlier this year, I'm finding myself at the end of my rope, and at this point I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. When my sister lost her husband earlier this year, I immediately flew down and stayed with her for 2 months to support her through it. I love her and I've tried to be there in every way I can. More recently, she had to go somewhere for a few days and asked me to fly down and take care of her dog. It was supposed to be a 4-day visit, but I'm still here and it's been like over a month now, with time literally almost creeping up on 2 months in total. It's reached a point where I feel emotionally exhausted and honestly taken for granted. She gets triggered easily, not just by me, but by our mother as well, even though they live separately. And she's especially reactive when it comes to my husband, who has done absolutely nothing to deserve it. He is thoughtful, gentle, and respectful, but she seems to take issue with almost anything he does. When I try to clarify that he meant no harm, she says the problem isn't with me, but it is with him, even saying that I take her for granted. When I was trying to work, as it's really hard for me to focus sometimes, she threw a tantrum for not listening to her, which, by the way, I definitely was. When I told my husband what she said, that I treat her like an afterthought, he quietly said that he feels like I take him for granted whenever she's around. The difference is that he'd never yell at me for it, but she has. She still refuses to consider therapy no matter how gently I bring it up. I've become an emotional crutch and I'm expected to absorb everything while also putting my own life on hold. My family wants me to continue staying here away from my husband, and honestly, I'm at a point where I seriously just don't know what to do. Okay, holy crap, your family is an idiot and I can't believe they're trying to force you into this. If your sister literally cannot figure her life out and she's taking all of her problems out on you, then in my opinion, that's a good sign that you need to pack up and get out of there. You are not responsible for this woman's emotional state. Seriously, you stayed for 2 months. And in my opinion, if she still doesn't have her crap figured out by then that's her problem, not yours. You don't have to be an emotional punching bag and you don't have to allow her to talk about your husband like that. So no, you're not the jerk for wanting to leave, because if I was in your shoes, I definitely would already be gone. Am I the jerk for telling my friend that her husband cheated on her, which eventually led to them getting divorced and me losing my job? Because right now, I'm not sure if I made a mistake and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so this happened last year, but it's honestly still on my mind. And there are 3 people aside from me involved in this situation. I'm a female and I worked as a nanny for a family alongside someone I will call Ashley. Our boss, who I will call Amy, was married to a man that I will call Chad, and together they have 3 kids. We were all good friends as well as co-workers and employees. One night after going out for a few drinks, Ashley told me that Chad had made moves on her and she had reciprocated. I let the information sit with me for a week and continued with work as usual. After a few drinks the following weekend, I let it slip to Amy that Chad and Ashley had hooked up. This then caused a huge fight between Ashley and Amy, which then caused Amy and Chad to get a divorce. Ashley lost her job obviously, and for a little while everything at work was fine with me. But after a few weeks, Amy told me that my nanny services would not be required until further notice. Now this really upset me, as I was very close with her family and I felt I hadn't done anything wrong. I no longer have any contact with anyone involved, aside from occasionally bumping into Amy as we live in the same area. Whenever we bump into each other, she is always pleasant and very friendly. She's always pleasant and friendly, and to my knowledge, she has not hired a new nanny at all. Now, my other friends think that I should have just minded my own business and kept my mouth shut. So I'm honestly needing to know, am I the jerk for saying anything about this? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, across the board, I think saying something was absolutely the right choice here. If you didn't say something, that honestly would have been messed up, and I think it would have been worse if you knew and didn't say anything. Even though this cost you your job, still, I really think this was the right path to make, so in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk. Am I the jerk for refusing to pay a no-show fee for a cooking class that I was unable to attend? Because right now I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I'm on vacation in Italy, and I found a chef who provides cooking classes on Instagram a few weeks ago, and I decided to book him. He works with his wife, and she gave me all the info necessary so that I could book him. She then said that payment was required up front, and I was expected to be wiring their location. Now, I really did not feel comfortable doing this at all, as it has happened to me before with upfront payments that I ended up being scammed, so I told her I would rather pay in cash the day of. Well, she was very nice and said typically they did not accept this, but was willing to give me the benefit of the doubt and let me book. And when she said this, I was so excited. When we arrived in town, I sent another email to check if everything was booked correctly, and she confirmed. Well, the day of came along, and in the morning we were out, but unfortunately I had no reception the entire time. When we got back to our villa, I noticed the chef's wife had sent me 2 emails and 1 Instagram direct message. One to tell me that they were waiting for us and to tell her if we needed anything, and the other one was 20 minutes later to tell me they emailed me and I wasn't responding. And then one last email said that they were leaving as we were too late. Now, I wasn't responding because I had no reception, but I panicked reading that. I had booked for 11 o'clock in the morning, but got my plans all mixed up and was positive the cooking class was at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I know it was my mistake entirely, and I replied to her apologizing a million times and telling her exactly what happened and asking how we could possibly reschedule, while also wondering if they could still come in at 3 o'clock. Well, that's about when the issues started to come out. She said they were all booked out at different locations and at different times, so there was nothing she could do to help us out. At the most, she said she could send us the recipes after being paid, and I was so confused about the payment and asked what that was about. She then sent us an invoice charging us half of the cooking class and said she was actually being nice, charging only half for the recipes. And she said she did this so that we would not feel like paying for nothing. And you know what? I was so baffled because yeah, I know it was my mistake and I apologized, but I had no idea this is how it works. What if someone gets sick and just can't come over? Anyways, I'm now thinking of an appropriate way to handle this, but I just feel like I shouldn't have to pay for something I didn't attend. If they work with tourists, then they should know that stuff happens. My friend says it's ridiculous of them to expect us to pay, and I should just stop replying to them because they're trying to push money off on me. But right now, I don't know if that would make me the jerk, and I seriously just don't know what to do. Okay, holy crap, the original poster sounds incredibly entitled. Yes, in case you're wondering, you are absolutely the jerk. First of all, they put a lot of trust in you. Typically for things like this, they make you do a deposit, but they said, okay, you know what? We'll just have you pay cash on the day of, and that'll be fine. We'll give you the benefit of the doubt. Well, congratulations, because you probably ruined their trust in tourists altogether because you decided to be that person. And by the way, I don't know of any phone that needs reception just to tell the time. Like, you literally could have looked around at any clock on the wall or asked someone on the street, hey, do you know what time it is? And they probably would have shown you their phone and been like, oh, you're late. That's what time it is. Like, seriously, you're such a rude person for doing this. Not to mention the fact that you knew what time it was. You even confirmed the time when you came into town. Like, there is no good excuse here. So yes, you are the jerk, and I think you absolutely should pay for wasting their time because the way you acted was completely unacceptable. My sister seems to think that just because I work from home, that must mean that I'm somehow free for childcare for her kids. Because right now she is constantly asking me to babysit her kids, even though I am literally on the clock. And at this point, I really just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I work full-time remote in a pretty demanding role. And my sister just had her 3rd kid and she is completely overwhelmed. And trust me, I totally get that. 3 kids sounds like an actual nightmare. But she started asking me more and more to just watch the kids for a few hours during my workday. And she wants me to do this literally while I'm supposed to be working. It started small by her asking, hey, can you keep an eye on them while I take a shower real quick? But now it's escalated to her asking me to take them to the park. Or she'll say something like, can they just hang out with you for the afternoon? And when I say I can't, she throws out a guilt trip. She'll say stuff like, you're at home anyways. You just sit at a laptop all day. How hard is that? Well, last week I finally told her that I can't be the default childcare just because I work from home. She then got super cold and told our mom that I'm being selfish and that I don't understand what real responsibility is. Our mom thinks that I should help out more as a family since I don't have kids, and apparently that means I have unlimited free time. And now I feel incredibly guilty, but also really angry. I'm not choosing Netflix over her kids. I'm literally doing my job. So am I overreacting here? Because right now I don't know what to do. No, dude, your sister's being so weird. Just because you work from home doesn't mean you can babysit all the time. Like, that is so unbelievably toxic and so entitled. So no, you're not the jerk, your sister's being dumb, and I would just completely ignore that. Am I the jerk for leaving a job that my friend got me into, all because the job really sucks? Because right now I'm being guilt-tripped hard, and at this point I don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. Okay, so my friend and her husband both work for an authorized retailer in mobile sales. They offered me a management position at one of their stores, and at first I was so excited. I mean, this this was going to be my first management job. I was proud and ready to prove myself. But after the honeymoon phase wore off, I finally realized what I actually signed up for. The company pays the managers a salary, but it's not a real salary. If I miss a day, they take it out of my check. I work overtime every week and I don't get paid for it. A few weeks ago, my mom was vomiting blood. She's a heavy drinker and it really scared me. My dad wasn't doing anything, so I took her to the hospital and I missed 2 days of work. When I got my check, they deducted a few $100s. I also only have like one sales rep who shared between like 3 stores. I have an 18-month-old baby, so if anything happens and I need to call out, it's a massive deal and I still lose pay. There's zero work-life balance, and that's something I specifically asked about when I accepted the job. The group chats are also really toxic. People constantly post clips of others working and make comments about what they did wrong. It's embarrassing, and it just creates tension. Everyone complains about it, but the owner just simply doesn't care. Between the hours, the stress, and never seeing my kids, it's simply just not worth it. So today I put in my 2 weeks. After that, my friend texted me super upset, saying that she and her husband stuck their necks out for me. I've never argued with her before, so it really caught me off guard. I get being disappointed, but the way she said it made me feel like I owed her my peace and sanity. Ever since then, I've had calls from her husband, my manager, and even the president of the company, but nobody's actually addressing the bigger issue. It's like they just want to guilt trip me into staying. So now I'm wondering if I'm the jerk for quitting when the store only opened like 2 months ago, because at this point I really just don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, your friend and pretty much everybody at this job is super toxic and you do not owe them anything. Like, first of all, that sounds miserable, and the fact that they're not willing to be more flexible with you is like all you need to know. So no, in my opinion, you're not the jerk. You have every right to leave a job that's not serving you well, and from the sounds of it, this job sucks and you can do way better than this. My psycho entitled coworker literally breaks into my car after work, demanding that I give him a ride home, putting me in a position where I could finally shut this guy down. Here's what happened. I want to start off by saying that this happened a few years ago. I was working on an airbase in the Middle East, and all of the expatriate workers lived on a compound about 30 kilometers from work. The company laid on a bus to take people between work and the compound. Most of the people who'd been there for a while bought their own cars, so you could basically go off compound shopping, or more importantly, if you were let off work early, you could get out of there, which surprisingly happened fairly often, and that way you didn't have to wait for the bus to turn up. It also wasn't unknown on the back shift to finish at 8 o'clock, but the bus wasn't picking you up until past midnight. I had been there for a few years at this point, and I did have my own car. It was just this really basic car. No optional extras at all, no electric windows, central locking, absolutely nothing. In fact, I almost never locked it. Anyways, we had this one person working with us who, for the sake of the story, I'll call Dave. He had been there for years, but still wouldn't buy a car for some stupid reason. He also didn't like using the bus. When we were leaving work, he would just tag along with people and basically like beg for lifts back to the compound, and this generally just wasn't a problem. People gave each other lifts all the time. Maybe your car breaks down or you have to have it serviced every now and again. The attitude is that you would give lifts in hopes that you might need one yourself in return, but that was not the case with Dave. He was a one-way transaction. Petrol money just wasn't a real factor, and at the time, petrol was insanely cheap. I mean, you could fill your tank up with change in your car ashtray. I also have my family with me there, and trust me, this will become important shortly. One day, I'm a little late finishing up and I had a complex handover to do with the upcoming supervisor, and this really did take a little bit longer than usual. I then get to my car and lo and behold, there's Dave sitting in my passenger seat, and I'm thinking to myself, are you kidding? Like, seriously? I then get into the car and I asked Dave what he was doing in my car. He said to me,
"Oh, I need a lift back to the compound."
He had gotten into my unlocked car, sat in the passenger seat, and had not asked for a lift home, just expected me to give him one. Now, everyone else had gone home by now, and the day shift bus had already left. But there was one slight problem though. I wasn't going back to the compound. Back when this happened, my daughter wasn't in school yet, and it wasn't a nursery day. And for reference, she only went to nursery a couple of days a week. I was meeting my wife and daughter at a nearby mall. There was also a massive soft play complex, and they'd spend the day there. And basically, I was meeting them there. And then afterwards, we were going to get something to eat all before going home. I then point out to Dave that I'm not going back to the compound and that he needs to get out of my car. He then asked me, well, what am I meant to do? And at this point, I decided to put my foot down. I say to him, first of all, I'm going to meet my family for dinner. Secondly, this is not my problem. And third, if he would have just asked at any point through the day if he could have a lift, I would have told him that I wasn't going directly back to the compound. He then tells me that I need to take him back to the compound first and then go meet my family. But I tell him under no uncertain terms that it wasn't happening and that it is his problem to solve and not mine. He then ended up going back into work and waiting until someone left at like 8 o'clock, which was about like 5 hours later. Well, I then had a great time at the soft play away with my family, and then we went to dinner and had a great time. But ever since that incident, he never got into someone else's car uninvited ever again. Okay, I don't care who you are, if my coworker literally broke into my car and said, "Okay, where are we going?" I think I would lose my mind. First of all, I completely understand the sentiment of okay, I can leave my car unlocked, this is not a dangerous area. You can probably clock pretty quickly if this place is good or not, and you're okay, I get it, this is not a problem, we can just leave it unlocked and everybody's gonna get along. So if my coworker broke into my car and sat there expecting a ride out of me, I think I would go absolutely crazy. That's so unbelievably inappropriate, it's not even funny. And yes, in my opinion, him getting into the car and waiting for you is absolutely breaking into the car. Whether it's locked or unlocked, I don't care. Stay out of my property. And the absolute gall of him to be "Oh yeah, you're gonna give me a ride. You need to drop me off at the compound first and then go to your family." It's no, you're gonna get out of my car before we have some problems. What is going on right now? So good for you for shutting your coworker down. This sounds absolutely obnoxious, and I think you have way more patience than I do. Because if I was in this situation, I would be very pissed off.
If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories.
An entitled mom loses it on me at the restaurant I work at, all because I refused to give a kid extra fries for free, as she literally just didn't want to pay for it and tried to guilt trip me into giving free food to her kid, which has left me really baffled and very annoyed. Here's how it happened. Okay, to start things out, this literally happened yesterday at the fast food place that I work at. I'm on the register taking orders when a mom and her kid come up. The kid orders a kid's meal and I tell them the total. The mom then immediately interrupts and goes, "Wait, can you just give him a second order of fries? He'll share with his little brother, but I don't want to pay extra." Now, I politely tell her that each meal comes with its own fries, and any extras would have to be purchased separately. She then lets out a huff and leans over the counter. She says to me, "But he's a child. It's not fair to make kids pay extra for fries. Don't you have a heart?" I try to stay calm and explained again that the policy is the same for everyone, kids included. But then she raises her voice and calls me ridiculous and demands to see the manager. So the manager comes over and I explain the situation, and the mom storms off, muttering something about child discrimination. Meanwhile, her kid was happily munching on regular fries the entire time. So honestly, it was just so frustrating and ridiculous that I almost laughed after she left, because I just don't get how some parents think that the world owes their kids free snacks. Oh man, that's so weird. Seriously, why would you walk into I don't know, McDonald's and be like, "Hey, can we get some free fries? This is a child, come on. Don't you have a heart?" And if I was there, I would respond and be like, "I don't know, do you have a wallet?" Bro, this is not a charity. What are we talking about here? You're not gonna get free food just because you have a kid with you. So yeah, this sounds crazy. I would really be frustrated by this, and I don't blame you for getting upset either. A group of entitled tourists have their kid grab my cat as I'm simply trying to walk it down the streets in Iceland, putting me in a situation where I was forced to shut them down. Here's what I did. Okay, to preface this, I live in Iceland, and during this time I lived in downtown Reykjavik, and there are a lot of tourists in that area on a daily basis. A lot of them can be entitled and rude towards locals and kind of treat us like a zoo, or as if we're in the way somehow by being there and living our lives while they're just posing for photos right in the middle of where people are walking or where cars are driving. Meanwhile, thousands of tourists are going to the beach that is closed off with a bunch of warning signs, some of them with flashing red lights to warn people from not going close to the water or going there at all, and them climbing over rocks to go past the fences that are there for safety just so they can pose in front of the water and put their life and their children's lives in danger, literally for no other reason than a photo opportunity. And sure, this is probably common in other places with lots of tourists, but I'm just trying to explain our point of view as people that live here and need to live our lives around this type of entitled behavior on an almost daily basis, especially when you live in downtown Reykjavik. During this day, I was walking my cat on a leash downtown, and we had been stopped multiple times by tourists asking if they can pet her, which I honestly don't mind, but I always just tell them to go ahead unless my cat clearly doesn't want to be pet. I always thank them for asking though, and for respecting my cat in that way. Well, needless to say, on this day, she wasn't really in the mood to be pet, especially after being stopped so many times. On our way back home, we're right at the bottom of Rainbow Street when I hear an American accent very closely behind me saying, "Are you gonna pet the kitty? Go ahead, pet the kitty." And it's in a way that they're clearly talking to a child. I turn around and I see a child walking ahead of their family and going for my cat. The child tries to grab my cat, but I step in between them and I say kindly no, and that my cat doesn't want to be pet right now. I move closer to the wall and I make room to let the family pass by us. We get a bit further up the street when the family slows down and we pass them. I have headphones on, but I have them only over one ear, so I'm still able to hear my surroundings. So it's at this moment I hear them again pushing their kid to go and pet my cat once they're behind me. me. Now, I again kindly say no, and I make room to let them pass in front of us, but they simply won't go. They stay behind us and keep asking their kid,
Are you going to go pet the kitty?
Now, at this point, they followed us around for like 10 minutes, and I continuously had to tell them no and step between them and my cat, and I even picked her up periodically while we waited for them to leave. But I let her go down on the ground again because she wanted to walk herself since she knew the route home. We passed them once again after they stopped walking for no apparent reason, and it's here the kid runs up from behind and grabs my cat's tail, and she hisses at him and gives him warning scratches in the air. Now, she didn't scratch him or bite him or anything like that, but she was giving very clear warning signs. I then once again stepped in between them, and I picked my cat up and I asked the parents, hey, can you get your stupid kid? And once I said that, I then tell them to leave us alone and stop harassing us and following us. I told them that I gave them multiple opportunities to go ahead of us, but they kept on stopping for no reason, just to get behind us or to continue letting their kid grab my cat. So at this point, they're literally harassing us. Now, the parents didn't even try to deny harassing us or following us around, and the only thing that stuck with them is the fact that I swore in front of their kid. And yes, as you can probably guess, I didn't just call their kid stupid, which means they're now yelling at me for swearing, and they get in my face for some reason. I then simply said that I would not have had to swear if they'd simply listened to me for the last 10 minutes, kindly telling them no and asking them to leave us alone when I still had patience before they actually let their kid physically grab my cat's tail without doing anything to stop him. Now, I'm still holding my cat, so I just walk away, and I'm trying to hold my cat the rest of the walk home, which at this point is like maybe 5 more minutes. They luckily didn't follow us the rest of the way home, but I was fuming for the rest of the walk. We have been in situations where people get mad if I said my cat doesn't want to be pet that exact moment. People have even tried to pick my cat up without permission, and we have had things shouted at us, but this was another level of entitlement in my opinion compared to the people we had encountered before this. I didn't blow up at them or anything, so maybe this isn't juicy enough for some people or a satisfying ending or conclusion to the story, but this is what happened. I don't blame the kids since their parents were telling them to pet my cat, but I do blame the parents for clearly not respecting boundaries and for acting as if being told no doesn't apply to them. Just because you travel to other countries doesn't mean you don't have to respect the locals. And if you travel to Iceland, then here's a pro tip. Respect nature as well as the locals because we're getting so tired of entitled tourists that come here and don't show respect, whether that's to the people or pretty much anything around them. Oh man, if anybody touched my animal while I'm walking them, I would be also very pissed off. Seriously, dude, you don't touch other people's pets. That's messed up. Especially a cat on a leash, dude. That is kind of unusual in and of itself, and that is not gonna end well. So yeah, the original poster was in the right for screaming at them and being really pissed off, because if I was in their shoes, I would feel the same way. My job wrote me up after I was experiencing burnout, all because I lost 2 very close family members, and now my work is tanking, putting me in a situation that honestly I never thought I'd ever be in. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my field of work has high turnover and high burnout rate. As a result, my company promotes transparent conversations with staff members to ensure that we are all implementing self-care, taking PTO as needed, and asking for non-managerial support when overwhelmed with tasks. Well, last year, my work began to suffer. I was struggling after losing 2 close family members suddenly, and was transparent in hopes that they would understand why I was withdrawn and had lower productivity. Well, my manager wrote me up as a result of my burnout, citing that I was using our one-on-ones inappropriately, causing stress among the team with my grief, and talking about being burned out too much. The write-up included every single one-to-one documentation of when I asked for help with burnout, and management instructed me to stop talking about burnout altogether. And it's here that my malicious compliance came into effect because I thought to myself, no problem. I then stopped bringing up burnout, being transparent, and asking for support. About 2 months later, I request a 7-week leave of absence, citing extreme burnout and mental health issues. Well, management was shocked and angry that I did not tell them that I was struggling or burning out. I then handed them a copy of my write-up. I said to them, well, the action plan I received stated that I could not talk about burnout anymore. Management was then scolded for inadvertently creating a hostile work environment where staff couldn't ask for support. I then got 7 weeks off and partial pay, and they had to cover my job for that entire time that I was out. Okay, first off, I hope the original poster is feeling better, but also, wow, your job sucks. You mean to tell me these people are like, oh guys, if you're feeling burned out, be sure to talk to us about it. We really want to help. And then when you do that, they turn it against you and they're like, wow, your grief is really causing problems. It's like, dude, what do you want? Seriously, what do you want? This is so annoying. So hopefully the 7 weeks really helps you out, because I can only imagine what you're going through, especially after realizing that your job literally betrayed you. That's crazy, and I know I would be very pissed off if I experienced that. My father-in-law seems to think that his guilt tripping will work in his favor when it comes to Christmas vacation, but in fact, I'm planning on using it against him as a form of petty revenge, because I am seriously tired of the way he's talking to me. Here's what's going on. So my father-in-law really wants us to come to their house this Christmas, but this year it will be difficult. My husband works in essence as a contractor job, so he doesn't get a lot of time off. If he took off too much time, he would lose full-time status and he would have to hope he'd get it back the next month. Because of this, he's probably only going to get like 2 days off. We live like 10 hours from our home state, so driving would really suck, and we'd spend at most a day from everyone. Flying is an option, but the shutdown has us nervous. We also have pets and our usual sitter is going to be gone for the holidays, and we would have to find a new sitter and hope our pets like them as much as the usual sitter. Even with all these reasons, my father-in-law has been trying to guilt trip us to come. He said we had inadvertently made a tradition of coming up every certain amount of years. He's used to the sickly family members, which our reasonings were never about not wanting to see them. Also, why do we need a holiday to remember to value your loved ones? We could easily make a trip for January or February, and when all else fails, we use the mom card. My mother-in-law recently lost a family member and has been really down, and she wants everyone together for the holiday. We've even come up several times this year because we want to support her, and if the situation was different, we would have loved to come up for Christmas too. Sadly, it doesn't change our circumstances. We were also upset because my mother-in-law's struggles were never the reason until my father-in-law said it after weeks of talking about Christmas plans. Now, I was pretty upset to hear that my father-in-law was trying to guilt trip us in this way, but then I got a bright idea. Since he wants us to spend time with friends and family, then we'll do just that. We are now making plans to visit everyone that we don't get to see. His family will still get time with us, but we refuse to let my father-in-law dictate our time. We plan to rent a car because I can already foresee my father-in-law making excuses for why we can't use their car. Tomorrow, we're supposed to talk about booking flights, and I plan to tell my father-in-law, you know what, this works out after all because we can now see everyone that we haven't seen in a long time, and I just can't wait to hear the tone in his voice when he realizes we aren't planning to spend every waking moment with only him. Okay, I love this petty revenge because you are literally taking what he said and you're running with it way further than what he expected. Because the second he tries to complain and be like, oh, well, wait a second, what about us? You can then throw it right back at him, and that is so funny to me. So good for you because I think this is a solid plan. Am I the jerk for not allowing the return of a car that I sold to my partner's coworker that now all of a sudden had broken down despite the fact that we explained that probably would happen? Because right now they are pissed off and I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, to start things out, I sold a vehicle to one of my partner's coworkers. We were very clear that a lot of work had to be done on the car and that although at this time we knew of nothing wrong with the vehicle, we were selling it because we didn't want to deal with it anymore. This was repeated to them several times. We said to them, we don't know if anything wrong, but we do not trust it. After a test drive, the coworker was confident that they wanted it. So we wrote up a bill of sale stating the terms of the sale. $3,000 total, paid in installments of $200 per month. We also sent a statement that said that this sale is final and the vehicle is sold as is, with no warranties or guarantees expressed or implied. The seller and buyer then signed the bill of sale, and just so I can make the registration and insurance process easier for her, I signed over the title. Now, that was 6 weeks ago. Fast forward to now, and the vehicle is broken down. There's apparently been internal catastrophic failure and it needs a new engine, with the crankshaft and the bearings being completely out. She's now asking that we take the car back and donate it or just send it to the junkyard. They can just sign it back over and we can do what we want with it. And by the way, it's currently about 2 hours from where we live. Now, I really do not feel it's my responsibility to fix this problem for her, but I do feel really bad it broke down. And at this point, she's now accusing my partner of taking advantage of her and saying that we never told her anything could be wrong with it. This car, by the way, has been a pain in my side since I purchased it for about $10,000 in 2020. It has had several mechanical issues that we have fixed. All in all, probably putting in around like $5,000 into the vehicle, and a lot of that was very recently. And trust me, there's a long list of things that we've had to like replace on this car, namely the alternator, the drive belt, the brake pads and rotors. We had to fix the oil pressure sensor, and trust me, the list goes on and on. Also, there was a fix done by our original dealership after Jiffy Lube failed to put oil back in the car after an oil change. Now again, we were absolutely transparent about all of this, and that we hoped nothing would go wrong but couldn't promise anything. So am I the jerk for refusing to allow her to return the now broken car that I sold that was in working condition that is now hours away from my home? I mean, is there any idea for a compromise? I can't afford to give away thousands of dollars, but I've been in hard situations with cars before, and I know what it feels like. What should I do? Okay, maybe I'm the jerk here, but no, you are not the jerk. I think you are well within your right to be like, sorry, I can't help you, and yes, you still have to pay for it. Like, I'm sorry, you signed the dotted line, and the second you try to accuse my partner of like taking advantage of them, when you very clearly said, hey, this thing like probably will fail you, and we're not sure if it works, but you're buying it as is. Like, at that point, that's your own problem and nobody else's. So no, I don't think you're the jerk at all. I think you absolutely have no obligation to this person, because if this car broke down, that is literally their problem and not yours. Am I the jerk for asking my sister to return the money I loaned her after she bought concert tickets instead of paying me back? Because right now I'm still very pissed off and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so a few months ago, my younger sister asked to borrow $400 to cover her car insurance, saying that she was short that month. Now, I agreed because she is family, and I figured that she would pay me back once she got her next paycheck. Well, 2 months went by and I still got nothing from her. I then gently reminded her and she said that she'd get me next time. Well, last week she posted on Instagram that she got VIP tickets to see her favorite band, and the tickets are well over $300. I commented half jokingly by saying, well, I guess you can pay me back now. She then deleted my comment and texted me saying that I embarrassed her. I then told her it's not about embarrassment, but it's about priorities. She then called me obsessed with money and said that family shouldn't treat others like debt collectors. I then told her that if she had money for concerts, she should have money to pay her debts back. My mom got involved and said that I'm being cold-hearted and that I should drop it because it's only money. But here's the thing, it's not even about the $400 anymore. For me, it's about the blatant disrespect. So am I the jerk for wanting my sister to pay me back? Because right now, everybody is really pissed off at me. No, you're not the jerk at all. If you're gonna ask someone for money and be like, oh, this is a loan, I need it for my car insurance, then you absolutely should be expected to pay it back. So no, this is not a bad thing to ask. I think you did the right thing by even saying something. And the fact that she's trying to be like, wow, you're obsessed with money. Like, that would be the last time I ever give her money in the first place, because like, that's a terrible attitude to have, and I can absolutely see her doing this again. An entitled teenager egged my house after I told him to get off my property. So I decided to get some petty revenge by printing out his MySpace page and sending it to his parents and the school principal, resulting in him getting expelled for doing illegal things online. Here's what happened. Okay, so some years ago, I lived directly across the street from the local high school, and every day during lunch, kids would stream across my lawn on their way to a nearby strip mall. One day, I'm getting home right at that time, and this boy, who's maybe like 16 years old, was digging holes in my yard with a big stick. I then told him to cut it out and get lost. He then chirped back at me and we had a bit of a back and forth, and then he went on his way. Well, a few days later, my house and car got egged. The idiot did it on a night it was raining, so there wasn't really any damage, just some eggshells on the driveway, but still, my honor required vengeance. Now, by the way, this was back in the day with MySpace, where everyone between the ages of 14 and 22 had a public MySpace page. Now, I knew from my interactions with him that he was a burnout raver type kid. He had longer hair, baggy clothes, etc. So I clicked around through profiles until I found the burnouts, and then methodically clicked through the connections until I found him. And bingo, right on his profile, he had pictures of him smoking the spicy grass, drinking straight from a bottle in the passenger seat of a car, and arranging some substance deals on his public page. And in one such thread, he had given out his home phone number to someone, and I looked it up on a reverse white page site and paid like $15 to get his parents' home address. I then printed literally everything off his MySpace page, and I mailed it to his parents, the school principal, and the school resource officer. Well, a few days later, one of his friends posted on MySpace asking where this guy was. This kid then replies and says, oh, some jerk printed out my MySpace page and sent it over to my parents and the principal. I got expelled and I'm grounded for the rest of the year. And at the time, all I could do was laugh. So to the kid who egged my house, I really hope you turned your life around. You were in some pretty deep crap for a high school kid, and hopefully things worked out in the end. Okay, I love this so much because, man, this is one of those situations where it's like, yeah, this is clearly a troubled teen who absolutely needs a reality check. It's one thing to be annoying and to be like just, I don't know, a normal teenager, but it's another thing to go around vandalizing and doing crap like this on a public profile. Like, this kid's an idiot for even instigating that and even like having that on his MySpace page. Like, it doesn't take common sense to be like, hey, maybe I shouldn't do this, you know, in the public. So good for you for getting revenge, because this kid absolutely deserved it. My entitled manager literally makes an awful joke about my dead mom, putting me in a situation that made me feel so hurt that I actually quit my job right there on the spot. And now I'm trying to figure out if I'm the jerk or if I overreacted here, because right now I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I've never posted here before, but after this happened last week, I still don't know if I overreacted or if I was justified at all. But regardless, I would appreciate some honest thoughts, and I'll try to keep it as clear as I can. I'm a 26-year-old male and I've been working at a a mid-sized tech company for the past 2 years. It was never my dream job, but it paid decently and I had a solid routine. Things were fine until we got a new team lead 3 months ago, and for the sake of the story, I'll call him Dan. Dan is the kind of guy who tries really hard to be everybody's buddy, but he constantly crosses boundaries. He'll tease people in meetings, mock accents, make weird jokes. I mean, Human Resources has already talked to him once, but nothing ever changed. Anyways, last Thursday, I was in a team meeting presenting a small internal tool that I had built to automate a reporting task. Everyone seemed engaged and respectful until Dan cuts in and says, loud enough for everyone in the call to hear,
"Wow, maybe if your mom had this kind of system when she was alive, she'd still be around."
For context, I lost my mother last year to a sudden heart attack. It was and still is a very raw subject for me. I had briefly mentioned it during a check-in a few months ago when he asked why I took time off, and I didn't even realize that he remembered it. But when he said that, I froze for a second. A few people nervously laughed, I think out of discomfort, and I just said to them, that's not okay. He then tried to laugh it off and said that I was too sensitive and that it was just a joke. I then stood up and I ended the call. I packed my things and I walked right out. I didn't say anything to anyone else. I literally just left. The next morning, I sent an email to Human Resources explaining what happened and submitted my resignation with immediate effect. I mean, I didn't even ask for the remaining PTO payout. I just wanted out. Ever since then, I've had mixed reactions. My older brother says that I should have filed a formal complaint and used this to hold Dan accountable instead of throwing away my job. Also, a close friend thinks that I was 100% justified and brave for walking away. But I'm sitting here unemployed now, unsure if I was being impulsive or standing up for myself. Part of me feels guilty for how suddenly I left, like I abandoned my team or acted unprofessionally, but the other part of me feels like if I had stayed after that, I would have been betraying myself. So seriously, am I the jerk here? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, first and foremost, what he said to you was completely out of line. That's unprofessional, that's disturbing, and very disgusting, and you do not deserve to be treated like that. But I also want to say that the way you reacted is completely normal. Like, dude, if someone said that about me and my mom had passed away recently, I would be like a raw nerve, like I would freak out on this person. And I probably would also be like, I want to quit. But I think you have one thing correct here. Somebody has to leave, but in my opinion, it's not you. Dan is the one that has to leave, 100% Dan. Like, I think there's some truth in what your older brother said. You absolutely should have filed a formal complaint and been like, no, this guy absolutely needs to be held accountable. What he just said is so unprofessional and disgusting. Because truthfully, you haven't done anything. Dan's one of those weird bullies of the office that just likes to cross everybody's boundaries, and that's not okay. So in my opinion, I would probably contact Human Resources or some kind of like upper management and be like, look, can I please have my job back? But if I do come back, Dan needs to be punished. What he said to me was inappropriate. I have witnesses and all this other stuff. Like, in my opinion, I think that would be way better than throwing your career away. Because from the sounds of it, you had a good thing going. And I just don't think it would be smart to throw all of that away simply because somebody offended you. Because yes, in a way, you did stand up for yourself by being like, I'm quitting my job and I'm getting out of there. But in my opinion, a way better way of standing up for yourself is to stand on business, keep your job, and say, no, Dan, you have to go. What you said was inappropriate and you're the one at fault, not me. Like, that doesn't excuse what he said. Like, what he said is disgusting, but it would absolutely rally people around you as they're like, oh wow, this guy joked about your dead mom. Like, that's messed up. Because I know for a fact if I saw one of my coworkers get treated that way, I'd be like, oh, I'm absolutely on this person's side. What Dan said is disgusting and absolutely immature and so weird. Like, you do not joke about that. That is so out of line. But either way, I hope some good things come out of this for you because what he said and what he did to you is completely unacceptable.
If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories.
My entitled neighbor complains that because my curtains are open in my house, she can see into it and sees exactly what I'm doing all day, essentially confessing that she's creeping on me all the time, and now I'm incredibly unsettled. Here's what's going on. So to start things out, we moved into a new house a few months ago, and we just received a mailed letter from a house that is behind ours, which, by the way, between us and this house is literally like a gutter system and a road. And this is verbatim what this neighbor said to me.
Dear neighbor, congratulations on your new home. I live right across the street from you. Although our homes are not very close to each other, I can see directly into your home from my living room and backyard. I can clearly see you as you walk around your kitchen and even when you get things from your refrigerator. While I'm happy for new neighbors, I would prefer not to have a view into your home when I'm in my living room and backyard. For your privacy, you may want to consider some blinds or some curtains. I hope you enjoy your new home and neighborhood. Your neighbor, Carol.
So it's like, okay, let me get this right. We have to close our curtains so that you can have yours open? And also, you've been watching us in our house like a creeper? Screw you, Carol. My curtains will be open open, and I also think some naked dancing in the kitchen is absolutely required. Oh my gosh, talk about like showing your hand without realizing it. Your neighbor basically confessed to being a peeping Tom. Like, what's going on, dude? Like, why is she sitting there staring and being like, oh my god, people live in that house? Look at them living and doing things. How dare they? They should close those curtains. I don't want to look at this. By the way, I'm gonna keep looking. Like, I don't know about you, but this is like the dumbest letter you could possibly send because it just doesn't make any sense. So yeah, your new neighbor is not a winner, and hopefully nothing else comes of this because that lady sounds insane. My entitled neighbor literally damages my car with her tree, but right when I'm trying to figure out this entire situation, she freaks out on me and somehow insists that this is my fault, putting me in the weirdest situation I've ever been in my entire life. Here's how it all went down. To start things out, I'm a 26-year-old female and I live in a townhouse. And one of my neighbors in her 40s, who we will call Mary for the sake of the story, is one of those people who always expect favors. For example, a few weeks ago during a heavy storm, a large branch from one of her trees cracked and fell across my driveway. It damaged my car bumper when I came home, and yes, this was her tree. In fact, I called her up and she agreed as much. She said that she would cover the repair, but the next day she changed her tune. She claimed the wind was unusually strong and it was not her fault, and insisted that my insurance should handle it. Then she asked me to pay her compensation for her lost potential value of the tree, as she claimed it was ornamental and worth money in the aesthetic value. At first, I was stunned. She really expects me to pay her because her tree is damaged? She says I'm responsible for cleanup afterwards, and I'm honestly flabbergasted by her sense of entitlement. I don't want to fight, but I also don't want to be exploited. So I've asked around, and legally, the tree owner is generally responsible for damage caused by their tree to a neighbor, but she's making noise in the homeowners group saying that I'm trying to bully her, ruin her reputation, and all this other crap. Honestly, it's such a loss because this is truly an incredibly weird situation. Yeah, I don't know the laws or anything like that, but I'm pretty sure the person who owns the tree is probably responsible for crap like that. And it's also weird that she's trying to be like, my tree doesn't look as good as it used to. You need to pay me for that. The aesthetic value's gone down. Like, dude, you clearly have a weird neighbor and someone who's obviously going to cause a lot of problems for you. So to the original poster, I wish you the best of luck because this is such a weird situation. And it really is baffling why she would treat you like this because I'm right there with the original poster. This definitely sounds like her tree, which means it's her problem to deal with. My entitled coworker demands that I cover up for her mistake, but then turns around and takes credit for my hard work, putting me in a situation where I'm very pissed off and I don't know how to fix the situation. Here's what's going on. I'm a 28-year-old male and I work in a mid-sized office. There's one coworker who I will call Karen for the sake of the story, who's really charming and good at talking up her successes, but who also frequently messes up basic things. She's asked me multiple times to fix or redo her work, often because she misses deadlines or rereads instructions. About 2 weeks ago, Karen forgot to include critical data in a report sent to a client. She then came to me asking to redo her missing section last minute since she promised the client it would be done. Well, I ended up doing it and I worked overtime to incorporate everything, and I even stayed late to make this happen. But then the next meeting, she presented the report including my corrections as her own. She didn't mention my help, and several people thanked her for the excellent work. And at this point, I feel used. If I speak up, I'll sound petty or like I'm undermining teamwork, but I also want recognition and fairness. So seriously, what's the best way to call this out without looking like I'm whining? Because right now I'm really frustrated and I don't know what to do. Okay, people in the comments section have pretty much like hit the nail on the head because I agree with them when they say that, yeah, I would never help this lady with anything ever again. If you're gonna come to me and be like, oh, please help me fix my mistake, and then turn around and be like, look what I did all of this myself. Aren't I a good worker? Like, dude, I would literally never ever help you. I would kick you to the curb and be like, you're on your own. Because you can bet she's gonna absolutely do this again. She's gonna do this till she turns blue in the face, dude. And the best part about it is that if she really does ask your help and when you say no, she asks why, I would be straight up with her and be like, well, the last time you didn't even acknowledge my help. You took credit for it and try to act like, oh yeah, I'm so good. So this time I'm just not gonna help you out. Like, that's what I would do personally, and yes, I can only speak for myself here. But leave a comment down below. What would you do if you were in this situation? Let us know. We would love to hear what you have to say. Am I the jerk for not going on a trip with my friend after her parents gave a hard deadline for me getting money to them for the Airbnb and pretty much all the costs associated with this trip? Because right now my friend's kind of flown off the handle, and at this point I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so me and this one girl who I will call Anna, as well as her boyfriend who I'll call Luke, have all been friends for a while. We're part of a small online friend group with two other guys around our age who I'll call Mason and Bud. We all met through gaming and usually hung out in Discord calls. In September, Anna and Luke invited invited me and Mason to Comic-Con in Amsterdam. Mason later couldn't go, and I told them that I might not afford everything on short notice, but they said they'd cover most of it as an early birthday present. And for reference, my birthday was a month later. I said I'd help with groceries and Ubers and of course, my sides of the Airbnb. Well, a couple weeks before the trip, Anna sent me a long message accusing me of spending money instead of saving it and just sending it to her boyfriend Luke. She had seen me using in-game credits on Overwatch and Dead by Daylight credits I already had and thought that I was somehow wasting money. I then explained that I hadn't spent anything extra besides food and maybe some appointments and reminded her that I was putting $100 towards the Airbnb. She then claimed that she didn't remember that and then told me that she had talked to her parents and they all said that if I didn't pay before October 3rd, I could screw off and not go. And you know what? That made me super uncomfortable. Her family doesn't even know me, so why are they deciding deadlines all of a sudden? Well, I told her this and I basically said that I didn't feel comfortable going anymore. She then got mad at me and said it was bull crap. So I refunded my ticket and I told her to go have fun. Now, I really thought that was the end of it, but she then started talking about me behind my back and sending screenshots around to pretty much everybody. Later on, me and Bud decided to clear out our shared Discord server since Anna hadn't done much with it anyways. After that, Anna found me on TikTok saying that about 15 people got hacked on Discord all because of Bud's bot. She said that she handled it and told me to apologize. Now, I doubted what she was saying, but I wrote an apology anyways, and I asked her to send it around since I didn't have those people added on Discord. Well, the next day, Bud told me that it was impossible for his bot to hack pretty much anybody, and when I confronted Anna about it, she changed her story and said that nobody was hacked. But then Luke got a message about someone trying to log into his Instagram, which makes absolutely no sense. Then I later found out that she never even sent my apology message at all. I then told her that her behavior was toxic and that blaming her bipolar disorder and autism for everything just wasn't okay. Well, she exploded on me and called me a jerk and a ton of other names before I left the chat. Then she told Mason that she had never called me that, even though she very clearly did. She's now telling people that I turned everyone against her, and some people think that I overreacted for deleting the server or just cutting her off, but I honestly felt so drained and just done with the drama. So seriously, am I the jerk for not going on a trip after my friend's parents gave me such a weird payment deadline? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, I gotta be honest with you. First off, no, you're not the jerk. Let's just get that out of the way. But holy crap, you need to run from this psychopath as fast as possible. Anna is one of those weirdos who literally is a drama farming freak. All they do is cause problems even when there's nothing going on. You saying that you don't want to go on this trip because her parents are acting weird, in my opinion, was like the best thing you could have done. Like imagine being stuck in an Airbnb with this psychopath. Because if you think she's acting crazy now, oh my gosh, just wait till you get her in person. If anything, this is a blessing in disguise. You're at least seeing who this person really is before they act crazy when you have no choice but to be around them. So no, you're not the jerk, and in my opinion, just like everybody's saying in the comment section of this post, you need to run from this group as fast as possible. Because this sounds like a mess and you do not need this in your life in the slightest. My entitled aunt demanded that I give my wedding photographer her contact list just so she can get free family portraits from my wedding. And I'm honestly blown away by her entitled attitude. Here's what happened. Okay, so my aunt is the kind of person who thinks that family discount means that you'll do it for free. At my wedding, we had this amazing photographer, a small business owner who was incredibly talented. And my aunt literally wouldn't stop hovering all over her all night, asking for extra shots of her and her kids. A few days after the wedding, the photographer posted sneak peek photos on her business page, and my aunt commented publicly. She said, "Oh, I love your work. Can you send me all the family pictures you took of me and maybe book a session for my kids this weekend using the same package my niece paid for? You know, since we're family." The photographer politely replied by saying, "Hi, you can reach out for rates and booking through my site." And it's here that my aunt screenshotted this. She texted it to me and said, "Can you tell your photographer to stop being rude and just share the family photos with me?" I then told her, "You didn't pay for any photos. Why would she send you free work?" She then said to me, "Well, because it's not work, it's family." I then told her that the only thing free in my family is emotional damage, and trust me, she didn't like that one bit. Oh my gosh, I can't stand this. I've run into this in my own life, where family members take advantage of other family members simply because they have a small business. Because in my opinion, family discounts should not even be a thing. Like, my dude, I'm trying to keep the lights on. Why are you trying to sit there and be like, I'm sorry, but are we not family? This is not work, it's family, come on. But it's like, oh, okay, then I guess this family is gonna keep my electricity bill running and maybe pay for my water bill or my rent, but like, what are we talking about? So yeah, this aunt is super entitled. I can't stand people like this, and hopefully this put her in her place because what she was doing doing was completely out of line. My entitled neighbor tried to get me to babysit her 13-year-old child simply because I work from home, putting me in one of the weirdest situations I've been in a long time. Here's how it all went down. I'm a 30-year-old male and I work remotely as a data analyst. My office setup faces the street, and my neighbor, who has a 13-year-old daughter, saw me one day and asked what I do. I then told her that I work full-time from home. Well, the next week, she comes over asking if her daughter can hang out at my place after school for a few hours, all because she doesn't trust her being home alone yet. Well, when she said this, I told her, sorry, but no, I'm working. This lady then looked at me and said, but you're home. You could just keep an eye on her. She'll be quiet. I then said to her, ma'am, I'm on the clock. I'm not a babysitter. When I said this, she got offended. She then said to me, oh, you must not like kids. But I responded back by saying it's not about liking kids. It's literally about not wanting to get fired. 2 days later, I get an email from my building's homeowner association. Apparently, she complained that I'm being unneighborly and refused to support the community. But the homeowners association president literally laughed on the phone and then said to me, yeah, she's filed like 3 complaints this month. One was about her mailman whistling. But now moving forward, I've decided to keep the blinds closed because I definitely do not want to deal with that ever again. Holy crap, what is going on right now? There are so many red flags in here, it's not even funny. For starters, what neighbor would go up to some random guy working from home and being like, hey, can you babysit my 13-year-old daughter? We don't trust her at home, so let's put her in your house instead. For me, before even announcing publicly that no, I'm not gonna watch your teenage daughter for you, because I am absolutely not gonna jump into that hornet's nest, the first thing I would be asking is like, wait, why can you not trust her at home? Like, is she like a destructive child? Is she breaking stuff? Is she stealing your wallet? Like, what's going on right now? Why can't you trust your own child? What is happening? And then I would look at her and start laughing and be like, I'm not babysitting your kid. I'm on the clock. Like, the original poster is 100% correct. Why should I have to babysit your kid? Like, seriously, that's not my responsibility. And it absolutely doesn't matter that I'm home. I literally do not want that in the back of my mind when I'm trying to get stuff done. So yeah, your neighbor's crazy, and in my opinion, I would absolutely keep my blinds open. Like, no one's gonna try and keep me from seeing the outside world as I'm working, especially when you're working from home, because that can get kind of lonely and you definitely need to see some sunlight every now and then. My entitled manager demands that as I'm working in their office building as a custodian, I throw away anything that's on the floor, resulting in one of the funniest moments of malicious compliance I've ever taken part in my entire life. Here's what I did. Okay, to start things out, I'm a custodian for an office building. I clean bathrooms, I take out the trash, I vacuum, etc. And I try to clean in the morning before the office opens. When collecting trash, I'd occasionally find some loose papers under and behind desks, beside the trash can, or otherwise on the floor. Since I'm not sure if these papers are trash that missed the can or important documents that fell on the floor by accident, I pick them up and I put them on the corner of the nearest desk for the workers to either file them or toss them. I mean, it's better to be safe than sorry, right? However, the manager did not like this habit. She came in one early morning expressing disgust that trash is being placed on people's desks. And it's important to note that obviously I never put actual trash like food wrappers or crumpled papers on the desks. I then explained my reasoning for my habit and expressed that I didn't want to risk tossing something important. Well, my manager told me that everything on the floor is trash, and the workers aren't such immature slobs to drop important documents on the floor. I then agreed and said that I would never do it again. Flash forward several weeks, and my manager came in early and expressed concerns. And this was because a filing cabinet had tipped over that day, and despite picking up the papers, they were still missing a few important documents, and she'd asked me if I'd seen any of them. And it's here that I reminded her that since everything on the floor is trash, the documents were probably thrown away. When I said this, she was irate. She said to me, but this was an exception since the filing cabinet fell over. I then asked her how I was supposed to know that when I'm not there during the day, and I was also not informed to look out for these documents in the first place. And that's when the situation dawned in this woman's eyes that this was literally all her fault. She then stumbled through some excuses before demanding I go to the dumpster and find the papers. I told her that the office was opening in 15 minutes and I still had work to do. She then stormed off and said that she'd start looking in the dumpster. While I cleaned, I knew I'd face her again before leaving, because my car is parked by the dumpster. So I thought of what to say to her as the final nail in the coffin. And sure enough, when I finished my work and walked out, the manager and a few other workers who had arrived were rooting through the dumpster. When the manager spotted me, she demanded that I come and help out. And I realized that this was my moment, so I delivered my prepared line. I said to her, ma'am, my job description is to take out the trash. Your job description is to ensure the safety and confidentiality of your client's files. I walked away, and in my head, I was walking to a cartoon villain scream of outraged failure from my manager. A few hours later, I got a text saying that there will now be a special inbox mailbox shelf for me to place any papers found on the floor so that the workers can go through it just to avoid this mess from ever happening ever again. Okay, honestly, what in the world was this lady thinking? First of all, if you've got a custodian who actually cares about your office and like the things you're doing in there and is like actively going above and beyond, like literally the extra mile to make sure your stuff isn't missing, like holy crap, hold on to that guy. Like seriously, he cares about his job and he cares about what's going on in here. He could easily just be like, okay, everything on the floor gets thrown away. Let's get this taken care of. But instead, he's actually taking care of stuff and he's trying to be like, okay, what's going on here? What does need to stay and what doesn't? And also, this is absolutely not on the custodian at all. For most office buildings, at least from my experience, if you've got stuff that's like confidential or it's like super important, the last place you put it is in like the common trash bin. There's usually like a shred box where you put all the stuff in there, and then a company comes in and like picks that up and takes that away, all with a very specific purpose of like shredding it and making sure that nobody sees it. Like that's completely normal and that absolutely happens all the time. So if her employees are throwing things away and putting it in like the normal trash can, like that's on them. That's not on the custodian. That literally falls on her shoulders. So honestly, I think if I was working in this situation and I had a manager talk to me like that, I probably would also maliciously comply and just run with it. I would throw away anything I found on the floor and not think twice about it. Like why should I? Especially if you're gonna give me an attitude. So yeah, I love what the original poster did because I think it's incredibly funny. My psycho future mother-in-law tried to fight my fiance in the hallway, all because we were going on vacation to visit my grandparents. Things got so bad that she even called the cops and lied to them, saying that I broke her thumb as she was trying to attack my fiance, putting me in a situation that honestly has me fearing for my life because right now I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, I want to start off by saying that it's been a very long month. My fiance's grandparents both had pretty scary falls in the last month, and we've all been taking turns taking 250-mile trips down to help and visit them, and it's honestly been very stressful. Next month, my fiance and I have a trip planned to go out of the country for a week to see my grandparents, who are older by the way, and I haven't seen them in years due to them being out of the country. The plan was to have my fiance's 17-year-old brother take care of our pets while we were gone, and they both knew about this and agreed to do this. Well, last night, my future mother-in-law realized that if we're out of the country, then they can't take a 3-day trip to visit my mother-in-law's parents. And according to my mother-in-law, leaving the kid brother by himself for 3 days is a hard no. So she announced that she was going to board the dogs. My fiance took exception to this because our older dog is terrified of everyone outside the household, and our younger dog is really bad at reading aggressive body language and will actively try to play with dogs that would tear her apart. This started an argument between my fiance and mother-in-law, where my mother-in-law accused my fiance of not caring about her own grandparents. Things got really heated, but I convinced my fiance to retreat with me into our room. Things seemed to cool down for a bit, but when I ran downstairs to grab my fiance's Nintendo Switch, just so we could hide out at my apartment, my mother-in-law was still ranting, saying that she wished she never had my fiance, how she was mad at the kid brother for attempting to bail from the argument, and accused him of siding with them, and was saying some of the most unhinged stuff imaginable. I tried to gently defend my fiance, because frankly, she's put her whole life on hold for a decade to support her mom and brother, but she just kept yelling, "Your fiance is not my daughter." Eventually, my fiance got sick of hearing things and started yelling back at her mom. My mother-in-law called her the B word, my fiance returned the sentiment, and at this point, my mother-in-law yelled that I should control my stupid B word because my mother-in-law is going to punch her in her stupid face. My mother-in-law went back to her room still yelling, with my fiance yelling right back at her. I tried to convince my mother-in-law that my fiance and I had been hiding for almost an hour while she was still ranting and that we weren't the ones pushing the argument. Eventually, she snapped and yelled, "I'm gonna get that idiot," and attempted to sprint past me down the hallway. I interceded and I stood between her and my fiance. My mother-in-law pushed and shoved and tried to squeeze past in the hallway, and she nearly made it too, but I picked her up and I put her down on the other side of me. She then announced that she was going to call 911, which I invited since no violence occurred. So she called the cops and yelled at the operator on speakerphone, demanding that someone get out there because her daughter was verbally mistreating her, and it's here that we could hear the operator was getting frustrated with her. Eventually she hung up, and minutes later the cops showed up. Now thankfully I knew one of them from work, and I explained everything that I typed out above. My mother-in-law talked to his partner outside, and apparently my fiance, who was hiding under her bed, was watching on the Ring camera and watched her mom straight up lie to the cops. They advised us that since no one was injured, even though my mother-in-law claimed that I broke her thumb, which definitely didn't happen, he said that we should try to avoid each other and let things settle. After they left, my fiance and I hid in our room, while my mother-in-law texted her about how I'm an evil danger to the whole family, because apparently yesterday I broke her thumb, and now she's texting my fiance saying that I beat her up in the hallway, which definitely didn't happen. But truly, I'm so heartbroken over this entire thing. I've been with my fiance since high school. I clean the house, I do all the chores. I mean, I'm the designated driver. I fix the cars, I fix the computers. I help helped the little brother with his homework. I've given so much of myself to this whole family. I helped the mother-in-law with her extremely evil ex as well. They even frequently comment that I'm too nice because I always stop to help anyone if I'm in a position to help out. But apparently now to my mother-in-law, I'm an evil jerk who's unsafe to be around, all because I wouldn't let her hit her daughter. I mean, honestly, my life is so messed up right now. My fiance says that I should have just let her mom punch her in the face because then she says we could just go back to everything being normal. Okay, holy crap, you guys have a weird definition of normal. This is not normal. Nothing about this interaction was normal at all. Your mother-in-law literally tried to fight your fiancé all because you guys were trying to go out of the country to visit your grandparents. Like, holy crap, imagine being that crazy and that hot-headed that you blow up over something like that. Like, seriously, that is crazy. That's absolutely crazy in my opinion. So for me, I know for a fact if I was in this situation and I lived under these settings, I would be moving out so fast it's not even funny. I'm talking like tonight, I'd pack it up and I'd get out. I would put stuff in a storage container and figure it out from there. Because look at the escalation of things, dude. This lady's a narcissist. She literally tried to be like, you broke my thumb. And now she's like, oh, he beat me up in the hallway. Like she's clearly capable of making things up just to try and ruin your life. Who knows what else she's gonna claim in the future? Like, holy crap. So yeah, I would be getting away from this lady as fast as possible because she sounds like a complete psychopath.
If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My serving job was one of the most toxic environments I've ever worked in my entire life, as my manager and trainers were constantly saying terrible things about me behind my back while also refusing to train me properly. And I am so glad I got out of that place because it was an absolute nightmare. Here's what happened. Okay, so I worked as a server at a retirement home about a year ago, and I've got to be honest, I really hated it. After the third day training period, I found it was terrible that anytime I tried asking a question, from the other coworker who trained me, they would always get mad at me and be like, I already showed you that. It was complete garbage how anytime I wanted to ask a question about anything, they'd get mad and think that I wasn't listening or just refused to do any work. And when I tried to tell another coworker 3 weeks in about what another coworker was saying about me behind my back, he said he thought that what they said was valid as he believed I wasn't taking enough initiative. He said that he would leave tasks unfinished to see if I would do them, and I thought that was annoying as I wasn't even sure what the task was that he was talking about. And at that point, it felt annoying that I wasn't getting enough communication on what jobs they wanted me to do. I asked for a checklist of what to do. I tried to follow everything that he wrote down, and it still felt like there wasn't much else to do. Even when others would mess up a task or got things wrong, I never called them out on it, and I would just fix things myself. I would ask them all the time. Whenever it felt like there was nothing to do, I would say, okay, what else needs to be done? And most of the time, they'd answer and then tell me what to do. I also didn't know what else I could do to try and make things right. I mean, I'd try to follow whatever was written down by my coworker, or I would just ask what else there was left to do, but it never felt like enough. It always felt like they changed things every week about what we needed to do, and I felt like I could never keep up. I eventually left that job after a few months, and when I was looking at other jobs a few months ago, I saw that they had another posting online. In this one, they upped the requirements where they wanted 6 months of experience in dining, but I've truly never been to a place where the working environment felt so toxic and stupid than the time I was a server working with these idiots. Okay, honestly, I resonate with this so much it's not even funny. Like, I've had coworkers like this who are like, oh, you're not doing enough. You're not doing your job. And it's like, okay, what is my job? Like, literally show me what I need to do and I'll get it done. And then they literally list off all the things that you've already done, and yet they still have the gall to be like, oh, you're not doing enough. Not to mention them talking about you behind your back. Like, that drives me insane. Like, seriously, dude, if you got something to say, just say it to me. We can hash it out, we can figure it out, and probably find some kind of common ground. But don't say stuff behind my back as if I've done anything to you, because chances are I probably haven't. So yeah, this entire situation kind of rings true, and I've definitely experienced this, and I know exactly what you're talking about. Am I overreacting for refusing to host my sister's bridal shower after she said that mine was tacky and has constantly made nasty comments about it even 2 years later? Because right now I'm very frustrated and I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so when I got married 2 years ago, my sister made it clear that she didn't love the theme I picked for my bridal shower. And for reference, it was like cozy cottage themed. Think stuff like florals, mismatched teacups, and homemade desserts. Now she called it Pinterest vomit, but I just kind of brushed it off. She got engaged this summer and is having her bridal shower next month. Well, last week she asked if I could host it, stating that this would be payback for the one that I had. And I said sure until she sent me a full PowerPoint on her vision. It would be black and gold, there'd be a champagne tower, there would be no finger food, there would be a DJ, and then a minimum dress code. Her list of what not to do literally started with no tacky teacups or budget-looking decor. I then told her that if she felt felt that my shower was that bad, then maybe she should have someone else host hers. She then accused me of being bitter and said that I was ruining her chance to have a classy event. But I straight up told her I'm not doing it, and now my mom is saying that I'm reigniting sibling drama for no reason. Now, I genuinely don't think I overreacted. I just don't want to spend thousands to host something for someone who mocked my own day. But part of me also wonders if I'm being petty, because right now I literally don't know what to do. Okay, I think your sister's being very petty and so weird. Like, literally, she could have been like, okay, this is what I want for my bridal shower. But instead, she's almost punishing you for having one that she didn't like. Like, seriously, get a grip. And this was 2 years ago, mind you. She is still holding on to this and has some kind of weird grudge about it. Like, that honestly doesn't make any sense to me, and that is so toxic. So no, you're not overreacting. I also would never want to host this in a million years, especially if they're going to insult me like that, because that is absolutely unacceptable. An entitled Karen screamed at me for staying in a disabled spot, despite the fact that I literally had a parking permit for it, as she refused to listen to anything I was saying and instead demanded that I move my car. Here's what happened. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I'm 25 years old, I'm disabled, and I have a valid disabled parking permit. I also drive an older BMW, and it is a nice one in my opinion. After my physiotherapy appointment, I walked back to my car, which yes, I parked in a disabled parking spot. I got in and spent a few minutes on my phone before heading home, just taking a short breath, which is something I always do after physiotherapy. The parking lot was nearly empty, and next to me were 3 regular open spots, and across from me was another empty disabled spot with 2 free spaces beside it. Oh, and by the way, it's a free parking area. Well, suddenly this woman who's somewhere in her mid-60s drives up. She stares at me for a few seconds, and then she parks her car, with half of it almost crisscross across the disabled spot opposite of me. She then gets out, walks straight up to my window, and says to me, "Why are you taking up a disabled spot? You've been sitting here playing games for 15 minutes, and I want to park here." And honestly, I was a bit surprised by this. So I said to her, "I'm allowed to park here. I was just doing something on my phone. I was about to leave." Now, before I could even finish my sentence and get anything out, she cuts me off and says, "You don't need to justify yourself." And yet she keeps going, telling me it's rude for me to sit there and that I should move over because she can't park her car anywhere else because it's too long. Now, this Karen came off a bit rude, and I tried to stay polite, but I could feel the frustration creeping in. But unfortunately, this kind of thing happens sometimes. Someone sees a young guy in a car and immediately assumes he's mistreating a disabled spot. No one ever sees why that blue card is there in the first place. Eventually, she walked away mid-sentence, and I honestly was a bit confused. I wasn't blocking anyone. I had a valid permit, and I was planning to leave. So seriously, was I being rude or was I the jerk? What should I do? No, you didn't do anything wrong, and I bet I know exactly why she walked off all of a sudden. She probably walked up and was completely excited to yell at you about parking there. Like this was her moment to get that justice she wanted, but then when she walked up and saw the tag, she was like, "Oh crap, how do I get out of this?" I'm not justifying her behavior, don't get me wrong, I think she's a complete moron for doing that, but I guarantee you she felt like an idiot the second she saw that placard hanging from your mirror, and then she just straight up walked away mid-sentence because she didn't know what else to do. So no, of course you didn't do anything wrong. This lady was an idiot for approaching you in the first place, and I honestly can't stand people like that. My entitled friend demands that I check with her before I invite anyone to our barbecue that we're trying to plan, as she really feels the need to monitor who comes and goes from my house. Here's what's going on. For a bit of context, my friend and I have been friends for a little over a year, and for the sake of the story, I'll call this friend Rose. We met at work, and after I moved to another job, we stayed pretty close. Our partners also get along really well. We've gone on a few double dates, and I've met her friend group and made an effort to get to know everybody. Last week, I hosted a small birthday gathering at my place, and Rose and her partner came, along with my best friend who I'll call Jackie, who also knows Rose because they work at the same company even though they're at different teams. During my birthday, Rose brought up the idea of having a barbecue at my place the following weekend before she and her partner went on holiday, to which I agreed. A few days later, I was chatting with Jackie and I thought it would be nice to invite her and her partner too. Since Rose mentioned the barbecue in front of her, I figured that it would be fine. I then texted Rose by saying, "Hey, just so you know, Jackie and her partner are also joining us too." Well, much to my surprise, she didn't take it well. She replied by saying, "Oh, is there no more double dates between you and me? It's okay that you invited her now, but next time double check with me first." I then responded back by saying, "Oh, sorry, I guess I misread the whole thing. Since it was mentioned in front of her, I thought it would be fine." Now, later on, I had to move the barbecue to another day because I was still catching up with some other friends and family for my birthday. And with that, Rose reluctantly agreed to change. I told Jackie she could come around on the original date, but also mentioned about the new date, and she said she'd still love to come even if it was moved. Well, before confirming with Jackie
Jackie, I texted Rose again. I said to her, hey, I hope it's okay that Jackie and her partner will still join us on Sunday since she prefers a kids-free day. Well, Rose immediately called me, sounding condescending, asking if I didn't get her message. She said the only reason she agreed to change the date was because she thought it would just be the four of us, and that I wasn't getting the point, that I should have asked her before inviting anyone else. Now, at this point, it's honestly exhausting. It's my house and I've been at her place plenty of times when she's had someone else there. I never thought to ask who would or wouldn't be coming, let alone tell her that she should check with me before inviting other people. So I sent her the following message. I said to her, I feel like this has become too difficult. I assumed wrong that you'd be okay with Jackie coming since you both know each other, and that was honestly my mistake. But I don't want to lie to Jackie since she already knows about the barbecue, and I also don't want to say you prefer she didn't come because I'm not trying to create drama. She then responded back by saying, it's okay. My husband said let's forget about Sunday, and the four of us can catch up for dinner after our holiday. We just wanted to do dinner with you before we go away. You can still do Sunday with Jackie and her partner. I'll tell her I'm busy packing so it won't be an issue. Now, I haven't replied yet because I don't want to say something impulsive, but I honestly just wanted to host a chill barbecue with people who all know each other. But now it's turned into this weird drama, and I'm left wondering if I really did something wrong by inviting someone to a gathering at my own house. So am I the jerk for inviting my friend to my place without checking first? Because at this point, I just don't know what to do. Okay, I've got to be honest, and I think you said this best. Rose sounds exhausting. Who in their right mind thinks they can dictate who can and cannot come to someone else's house? Like, that is so stupid, dude. What are you doing? If you're gonna mention plans in front of other people, you can't possibly expect them not to come along with it, especially if you're like, oh yeah, we're gonna do this and it's gonna be great. Because if you do it that way, you're basically saying, oh, we're gonna have a great time, but no, of course you're not invited. Like, that's obnoxious, and I just don't understand how someone could act like that and then be like, oh yeah, they can't come to this party that you're hosting at your house. Like, at that point, if I was in your shoes, I'd be like, okay, we're just not going to do anything then. This is clearly causing problems for them, and I just would not want to deal with that. So no, you didn't overreact because I think your friend's being very stupid. Today, I exposed the fact that my girlfriend lied to me about what she was doing at work because I uncovered the fact that she actually went on a date with a guy instead of actually doing her job as a real estate agent. And right now, I am so devastated that I actually ended my relationship right then and there with her. And at this point, I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I've been with my girlfriend for about 3 years now in what was a pretty much classic exclusive relationship. We were living in a big city, and very recently we moved into her province of origin. When we were moving, she picked up a new job as a real estate agent. I work from home and I'm there pretty much all day, and she also gets to work from home unless she has some property visits that she needs to take care of. Well, to cut to the chase, now that the setting is set, a couple of days ago she tells me that she's got a visit and leaves the house at like 3:45 p.m. I finish my day of work at about 5 o'clock, I leave for the gym, I train for about 2 hours, and then I come back at around 7:30 p.m. But when I get home, there's still no girlfriend to be found. I don't think much of it. I mean, I just shower, I start prepping my food, and then finally, a bit before 8 p.m., she shows up. Now, at this point, I'm still a bit curious. So I ask her where she's at, and mind you, I'm not thinking much of it. The clients were a couple and didn't like the first house, so they visited another one and then another one after that, and then she got home. And here's the thing, at this point, I'm still not really suspecting a big thing is happening, but even still, I start to find things weird. Like, I visited houses and I know how long it takes, and 3 visits certainly do not take 4 hours. So I keep poking, simply out of curiosity. And after some time and some more poking, at some point they, meaning the couple, quickly became he, meaning a singular person. And at this point, my spider sense goes off. I keep poking at her story, and the more I poke, the more she contradicts herself. And it's here that I know something's up. The discussion goes on, and she obviously is out of options, but still refuses to do the big reveal. I then get tired and I just say that I'll go to bed, and that we'll pick it up the next morning. But no, I can't get to bed. I literally can't stop thinking about it. So I go back down and I corner her, metaphorically of course, and I verbally start to ramp things up with intensity and basically leave her no choice. And when she refuses, the intensity goes up another notch. And then at the very last second, when literally it was give me something or get out, she then timidly admits that they ate and went to dinner together, which she now maintains tooth and nail wasn't a date. Well, she's been an agent for 2 weeks, and because of this, I broke up the relationship right then and there. So am I overreacting in this situation? Because right now I'm honestly so heartbroken. Dude, your girlfriend absolutely went on a date with this guy. I don't care what she says. That is some crazy stuff if you ask me. Like, think about it. The second she lied about this and said, oh, it wasn't a couple, but it was a guy. Like, that's the biggest indication that, yes, something's off here. Like, I'm even suspecting the fact that she even did anything work-related. Like, who's to say she didn't spend the entire day with this guy and work had nothing to do with it? So no, you're not overreacting. This absolutely was a date, and this is incredibly heartbreaking. Because you guys literally moved together. Like, this is crazy. And back to her province of origin, which is probably why she was able to get a date so quickly. So in my opinion, I think you're completely justified because this is unacceptable. Today, I walked out on my friend moving apartments after she asked me to show up and help out, only to then sit on the ground and drink wine and basically watch me do everything. Because after I walked out and refused to help her out, she's now not talked to me, and I'm honestly not sure if I made a mistake. Because this entire scenario is incredibly bizarre. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my friend, who I will call Lena, is 28 years old and asked me to help her move apartments last weekend. I showed up on time with boxes, tape, literally the whole thing. But when I got there, she and two of her friends were sitting on the floor drinking wine and chatting. Like there was nothing packed, literally nothing. I asked if she wanted me to start in the kitchen, and she said to me, "Yeah, maybe after we finish this bottle." And I thought she was joking, but no. They kept drinking and talking while I started packing alone. After about 2 hours of doing everything myself, I said I had to go because I had plans that evening. She then looked offended and said to me, "Wow, I thought you were gonna help me move, not ditch me halfway through." I then told her, "Lena, you haven't even started packing. I can't do it all by myself." And when I said this, she just rolled her eyes and said I was being dramatic. Well, needless to say, I left anyways, and now she hasn't talked to me ever since. So am I at fault here? Because right now I don't know how to fix this situation. Holy crap, people like this exist. This is crazy to me. First of all, if you're gonna invite someone over and be like, "Hey, can you help me move?" At least have the common decency of packing things up and having something started. You don't just sit on the floor with your friend and be like, "We're gonna drink wine and then we're gonna move stuff." Because that is like the least productive thing you could possibly do in that situation, dude. What Lena thought in her head is like, "Oh yeah, the original poster, they're gonna do this all for us, which means we can sit by and drink wine all day. Let's watch her work. This'll be great." Like, no, you gotta get up and do some work, Lena. You can't just sit there and think I'm gonna do it. Oh, and by the way, the original poster has way more patience than I do. They dealt with this for 2 hours, bro. 2 hours of their life, they watched their friends sit on the ground getting wasted drinking wine, instead of standing up and like actually doing something to help out. Because I'm telling you right now, after like 30 minutes tops, I would be like, yeah, I'm gonna leave. This is a waste of my time. And I just love the fact that Lena's trying to be like, "Wow, you're ditching me? How dare you?" And she probably said this sloshed out of her mind with a wine bottle still in hand. Like, dude, are you kidding me right now? So no, you are not overreacting. You absolutely did the right thing here, because Lena in this story is super entitled and very lazy. My idiot cousin ruined my credit score after he signed me up for a lease that I never agreed to. Because once I found out that he had literally committed fraud in my name, I found myself scrambling to get this off of my record. All while my cousin tries to act like I'm overreacting and just trying to make him look bad to the entire family. Here's what happened. Okay, this happened last year and I'm still cleaning up the mess. So my cousin, a 30-year-old male, was moving into a new apartment and apparently his credit score wasn't great. He then calls me one night, super casual, and he says to me, "Hey, can you just co-sign my lease real quick? It's no big deal. They just need someone with a clean record." When he said this, I told him politely no. I was 25 at the time, just started rebuilding my own credit after paying off student loans, and I didn't want to risk it. When I said this, he acted like he understood and we hung up, and I honestly thought that was the end of it. But then 2 months later, I get a letter from a collection agency saying that I owe $600 for damages on an apartment I've never even seen. And as you can probably guess, it turns out my cousin put my name down anyways. He literally forged my info on the lease because according to him, "Look, it's just easier if you don't make a big deal out of it." When I confronted him, he said, and I swear, this is word for word, "Look, you have a good credit. I don't. You're supposed to help me. It's not like you're paying for it." And he said this as if he was entitled to it. I ended up having to dispute it, file a fraud report, and then freeze my credit. The whole process took months and multiple phone calls. Meanwhile, he keeps telling everyone that I was overreacting and trying to make him look bad. I mean, the entitlement is unreal. Like, how do you screw up your own finances and then decide it's someone else's responsibility to save you? And now my credit score is damaged because of that stunt. But family or not, some people just don't understand any kind of boundaries. Holy crap, this is a nightmare. I can only imagine what this must have been like. Like, holy crap. Like, what he did is not only incredibly unethical and just so dishonest, but it's also, I'm pretty sure, like, very illegal. Like, I can't just go around, get someone's information to be like, "Okay, we're co-signing on an apartment. Let's get ready to do this." Like, no, dude, don't put me on the lease. That's insane. Especially for someone that you probably know for a fact is as irresponsible as your cousin. So yeah, this whole situation sucks, but if I was in your shoes, I would be shouting this entire situation from the rooftop so that everybody in my family and then some can see the actual truth of what happened. Like, if this guy really wants to twist this to make him look like the victim here, then fine, I'll go ahead and drop some receipts and be like, "Oh, this is what you put me through. These are the links that I had to go through just to get this taken care of, and yeah, my credit score is now screwed over because of you." Because if this guy wants to mess around, then he can absolutely find out as well.
If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories.
Am I the jerk for telling my college roommate that she can't have her mom stay the night in our shared college space? Because right now I'm being treated like garbage and I just don't know what to do about this. Here's what's going on. Okay, so as the title suggests, my roommate wants her mother over at our place so that she can sleep in our shared room. For some context, we are both sophomores in college. We've never had any issues before except for like minor miscommunications, and I'm honestly baffled at this scenario. She woke me up this morning and told me that her mother was going to come around in half an hour and help her clean up and take her out. Now, I have no issues with her mother, as at this point I've known her for like 3 years, but I've never spoken to her for more than like a few seconds when she comes to visit, and it's always just common pleasantries and then we part ways. In total, we've probably spent less than like half an hour in the same room. Anyways, once they got back from their outing, I was in our room doing homework, and she asked me if it was okay if her mom slept in her bed with her tonight. When she said this, I was extremely confused. I mean, she has never asked this before, and while I like her mother, I also don't really want to sleep in the same room with her. So I asked her if she was asking if I would leave for the night so that she could have some kind of girls' night with her mom, to which she refused and said that she just wanted to know if her mom could stay over here tonight. I pressed her again and I asked if she meant her mom would sleep here and she would sleep somewhere else, or they would sleep in the bed together, and she said they would most likely just sleep together. Well, I told her this made me extremely uncomfortable, and I don't really know her mom well enough to want to sleep in the same room with her, to which she replied by saying, well, we didn't know each other before we roomed together, and we still sleep in the same room. But am I wrong in thinking that's a completely separate and unavoidable thing? Her mom absolutely does not have to sleep with us. Now, both her and her mom refuse to speak to me and are being extremely standoffish with me. Her mother even texted my mom and said that I was being extremely rude and that she would have a talk with me about being more polite and courteous with guests. I'm just so confused and weirded out, and at this point, I don't know if I'm the jerk. Okay, honestly, I think the part that kind of like pisses me off the most is the way the mom and this like roommate are acting. Like, holy crap, you texted my mom over this? Are you crazy? And then she wants to be like, oh, I'm gonna have a talk with her. Because it's like, okay, bet, let's have that talk. Let's talk about how you're too cheap to get a hotel and like stay out of my space. Listen, if the roommate had like a separate room and they're going to stay there, then like, cool, go for it. Do whatever you want. But I'm imagining this small dorm room where it's like, okay, there's like no space as it is. And now you're telling me your mom's gonna be sleeping over at the same time as me? Like, I'm absolutely with the original poster here. That's weird and just a little bit uncomfortable. So no, this is absolutely out of line, and I definitely don't think you're the jerk. Am I overreacting by asking my mother-in-law to move out, all because she's become too involved in raising our daughter? Here's what's going on, because things are about to get really weird. Okay, so my wife and I have a 3-year-old daughter, and for the past year, my mother-in-law has been living with us after she had some financial issues. Now, as you can probably guess, it was supposed to be temporary, a few months tops at most, but it's dragged on way longer than either of us expected. At first, it was nice having the extra help with childcare, but over time, she started taking over completely. She steps in every single time our daughter cries, interrupts us when we're disciplining her, and often refers to our daughter as my baby. It's gotten to the point where our daughter now goes to her first when she wants something and not to us. My wife has told her mom multiple times to tone it down, but she just laughs it off or says something like, "You'll thank me later when she turns out to be perfect." But last week was the final straw. I found my mother-in-law giving our daughter a haircut in the kitchen without even asking us first. When I confronted her about it, she said to us, "It was getting in her eyes, you're welcome." Well, my wife was furious about this. She said she feels like her own mom has taken over and that she's uncomfortable in her own home. Well, we talked about it and agreed that we need to ask her to move out and find her own place, but now my mother-in-law is guilt-tripping us, saying that we're kicking her out and that she's done everything for us and that we're ripping her granddaughter away from her. I feel really bad, but this situation is destroying the balance in our home. So seriously, am I overreacting by kicking her out? Because at this point, we're just incredibly frustrated. No way, dude, you're making the absolute best decision here. This is not you overreacting. This is you getting someone out of your house that is damaging your daughter. And yes, in my opinion, that's what's happening. Your daughter's 3 years old and this lady's like hijacking you guys being parents, meaning that she's not young enough to understand that, yeah, this is not normal. Grandma is not and should not be the first person that she goes to anytime she needs something. And I think you guys have clocked this correctly. If I found out my mother-in-law was standing in the kitchen cutting my kid's hair, all without asking me first, I would lose my mind. That's not okay. You can't do that. You're not the parent. I am. So no, her guilt tripping and manipulation is stupid, and I just would not listen to that for a second. And if anything, I would give her 30 days and be like, okay, you gotta go and figure it out. Because otherwise, this is only gonna cause you a lot of heartache and a lot of problems. Am I the jerk for refusing to let my dad bring his new wife to my graduation after she recently said some nasty things about my mom online? Here's what's going on. I'm a 22-year-old female and I'm graduating college next year, and my dad has been asking for months about tickets. Now, each graduate gets 4 in total, but I told him from the start I was saving 2 for him and my stepmom, 1 for my mom, and then 1 for my younger brother. Everything was fine until about a month ago when my dad's wife posted on Facebook a photo of them at dinner with a caption that said the following: "Some people can't handle seeing their exes move on. Stay mad, jealous types." It doesn't take a genius to figure out that she was talking about my mom. I mean, they've had tension ever since the divorce, and my mom was actually the one who helped my dad through rehab years ago. My mom showed me the post even though she didn't respond to it, and I told my dad it was disrespectful and that I didn't want his wife at my graduation if she was going to be taking digs like that. He then said I'm overreacting to a post and that it's not a big deal. I then told him that he can still come, but she is not welcome this time. And when I said this, he flipped out, saying that I'm punishing him for loving someone who isn't my mother. And now I'm getting guilty text messages from his wife too, saying that I'm making family division even worse and that I'm embarrassing my dad. So am I the jerk here? Because this whole situation is a giant mess. Okay, honestly, I don't blame the original poster. This is really toxic and I would not want this anywhere near my graduation at all, especially since it literally seems like she's doing this just to antagonize your mom right before a big event. And that's like classic narcissist behavior. Like, it really seems like she wants to ruffle some feathers right before she sees her in person. Like, there's no reason to make that comment at all. Just move on and be happy. Don't drag the other person down. And from the sounds of it, the mom in this story is not the bad person. Clearly the ex is, and clearly the dad is like absolutely toxic for encouraging this. Like, he's trying to flip this on the daughter by being like, "Oh, you're punishing me for loving someone who isn't your mom." But what he's really doing is saying, "Hey, stop holding me accountable for what my new wife says." Like, this guy is so stupid. He's turning this into something about himself when in reality, he's almost encouraging his ex-wife to make these kind of comments. Like, that's so toxic. So no, you're not the jerk, and I seriously just don't blame you for a second. Today, I got some much-needed revenge against my ex-wife, as I not only canceled her internet, but also got her phone number canceled as well, putting her in a position that honestly she definitely deserves because she has caused me so many problems. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, I'm a divorced dad. Together, we've got 2 very good kids, and we've mostly been amicable, but mostly because I've paid for literally everything. Part of the reason for the separation was her not working enough while complaining constantly about our situation. I went from selling illegal substances as my main source of income to becoming an independent plumber, and I did this so we could stay in this expensive city, Los Angeles. Well, 2 years ago, we finally separated and I moved out, and when I did that, I stopped paying her rent, and I even told her that I'm going to be separating the phones very soon. Well, 6 months later, and she still hasn't found a new carrier, so I went ahead and canceled her number, and that time I was nice enough to 3-way call her so that she could at least port her number to a new carrier. What I had forgotten though was that I was still paying the home internet, which is a service that I also use for my new place as well. In fact, a year ago, I remember that I told her that she needs a new internet provider too, and that soon I'm going to be cutting that off as well. And as you can probably imagine based off the pattern, there was a lot more gaslighting. Now, I put this off for a while, but yesterday, I got an email thanking me for my payment twice. But you know what? I'm so broke right now that I was highly motivated and I just got to work. When I picked up the kids later that day, I also grabbed the router. And today, I took it into the store to cancel, only to then find out that she put her phone number on my Spectrum account. Well, they gladly helped me terminate the mobile service, telling me that she needed a new number entirely. And on top of that, they canceled the internet, saving me about $100 a month and the satisfaction of knowing that my ex is having to get a new number because she was too shady and lazy to do the right thing. Throughout our entire relationship, she took advantage of me being nice and considerate or too lazy to be vindictive. But not today, because I was getting the revenge that I absolutely should have gotten a long time ago. Dude, I love this so much. Like, first of all, it sounds like your ex is an absolute nightmare because the way she gaslights you is so disgusting. Like, dude, what is going on right now? Like, she's going out of her way to make it seem like this is your fault, when in reality, she's just some deadbeat who refused to work, putting everything on your shoulders instead of stepping up and doing something herself. So good for you for, like, giving your ex a lot of problems to deal with, because from the sounds of it, she definitely deserves it. Am I the jerk for refusing to pay for a new door after a car literally made an illegal U-turn into the bike lane, which then caused me to hit his car head on? Because right now he's saying he's gonna sue me, and at this point I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, to start things out and give a bit of context, I live in Montreal, which has been transformed in the past few years to have a lot of cycling infrastructure. I was cycling in a bike lane and the lane was upgraded to have some small concrete barriers between it and the car lane, but unfortunately this barrier isn't all along and only near each intersection. Sadly, cars still park in the unprotected areas, especially delivery drivers like DoorDash. Well, a DoorDash test driver parked in the opposite side bike lane suddenly drove into my lane at 90 degrees to do an illegal U-turn. And by the way, there's a solid line, so you cannot even pass in the oncoming lane. Well, obviously I didn't have time to completely stop and I hit the door of the car head on. I was fine and so was my bike, but my helmet got dented from hitting the car window. This idiot then got out and started shouting at me and telling me that I'm a jerk and I should have just stopped and waited for him to turn, and that according to him, I did it on purpose and he saw me. Now the car door had a massive dent from the impact. He then said this is going to cost him a lot of money and told me that I would have to pay for a new door. At this point, he was still blocking the road and some other drivers started honking, so he moved the car to park in the bike lane. I then asked for his insurance information while also saying that he's the one who owes me a helmet, but even though I asked for it, he still declined to give me anything. I then just started to cut my losses and cycle away, but he got in his car and followed me. We then stopped elsewhere and I gave him my phone number and I took his, but now he's calling me and sending me really sketchy messages about suing me if I somehow don't pay him for a new door. So am I the jerk for refusing this? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, this guy has trouble written all over him. The driver's 100% at fault and he knows that because he's trying to justify this and be like, oh, you did this on purpose. You ran into my car on purpose because you knew I was going to get in trouble. And it's like, yeah, the only reason he would be saying that is because he knows he's guilty. And now he's just trying to be like, oh, I'm going to sue you. You better pay me for my new door or else. And it's like, sorry, man, that's just not going to happen. So in my opinion, I would probably go to the police or like maybe even lawyer up. Like this sounds really sketchy and hopefully they can help take care of this, because if it really is like the way that you described it, then in my opinion, it sounds like this guy is super guilty and he absolutely is the one at fault. My entitled mom freaks out on me and my son after I begged her to please babysit my sick son at my house instead of at hers, because now my mom has freaked out and cut me off from my entire side of the family, putting me in a situation where truly I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my son was sick yesterday and my mom offered to babysit for me since I really couldn't miss work. For a bit of context, I'm a single mom because my husband passed away in an accident last year. We had 2 kids together, ages 12 and 8, and my 8-year-old has severe ADHD and autism. Being a newly single mom, money has been really tight, and I do get state assistance, but not a lot. And my husband didn't really have any life insurance, so there was no money left to us from him. My mom and my sister help me with my babysitting if the kids are sick, or if there's like no school because I just can't afford a sitter. The issues really came in when I told her that I didn't have food to spare right now because I have not been able to go shopping yet. I then told her to please bring her own food, or at least be prepped to have to buy her own food, because the food I do have in the house is strictly for the kids until I can get to the store this weekend. She then said it would just be easier to take my son to her house then, which I was okay with, but my 8-year-old really hates going to her house. But when she comes to get him, he has a meltdown because he doesn't want to go to her house. I asked her if she can just stay and I can find a way to get more food before the weekend, but she said no and insisted that he had to come with her. And honestly, that just made the entire situation way worse. Now, my mom has not had great patience, but her and my sister are the only sitters I have right now because they don't charge me much, and the only thing they ask for is maybe gas. Well, when I said this, she lost it and started yelling at me and him that she didn't have time for this and that she had plans that day that she had canceled just so she could watch him, which by the way is something she did not mention to me at all beforehand when I asked her. She also said, and I quote, "I wish we could trade lives and I could lay around and throw tantrums all day and you can go to work and just have everyone use you and take your money all the time. How much it must suck to be you and do whatever you want while I have to do nothing but take care of other people." Now, I never borrow money from my mother, but my sister and grandma live with her and they don't work, so I know she is under a lot of stress and she takes it out on me a lot. She does this by calling me a burden or letting me know how much my tragic loss has affected her negatively. She'll also call me other names or yell at me for things that my sister or grandma do. Nonetheless, whenever she said this, I didn't yell or argue. I simply covered his ears and I looked at her and I said, "Mom, he's 8 years old." And when I said this, she lost it. She screamed, "Screw you then. Miss work and lose money. I don't care. I am leaving." And then she got up and she left. She now says that she will not babysit for me ever again, just so I can no struggle, which if she really follows through with that, that means I'm gonna have to miss a bunch of work or find a sitter that I can trust that won't break my bank. So I'm honestly wondering, should I have just cut her a break knowing that she is under so much pressure? And I understand she's frustrated and needs to get it off her chest, but I feel like a verbal punching bag and I don't want my kids to deal with that as well. So am I the jerk because I just don't know what to do? Okay, before we go any further, the
original poster has an update to this story, and there's a lot that happened. Here's what's going on. Okay, to start things out, my mom is banned from my place of work, and I will no longer be speaking to her or my grandma, while also limiting contact with my sister. In fact, I was sent home early due to my emotional state at work. Basically, they showed up before my lunch break, and they demanded to talk to me. Well, when my boss said no, my mom lost it and started screaming at her so loudly, I could hear them down the hall from my classroom. She then sent another staff member to get me to try and defuse the situation, but my mom only started screaming at me that I wasted her time and her gas because she was going to have to wait around all day for me. And she did this while also calling me all sorts of names and cussing with every other word. I then asked her if we could go outside to talk, and she said that she no longer wants to talk to me and that she only came here because my sister asked her to. Now, one of my coworkers is going to be retiring a week before Thanksgiving, and she told me that she will watch my kids during school breaks after she retires for the same price I paid my mom, which is right after everyone got to see what my mother was like in person. She said she doesn't feel right having me keep her as a sitter after her behavior today, and she understands how hard being a widow truly is. And apparently, this coworker lost her husband when her kids were like 10 and 14, but I had no idea about this until today since she never really shared much info about her personal life. We then ended up having a talk with the police on my mother because she was refusing to leave, and they actually came and escorted her off the property. After they left, my sister called me to tell me that my mom had blocked me on literally everything, and actually told her that she no longer has 2 daughters and just 1, and that my sister is forbidden from coming to see me or watching the kids while she lives with our mother. But luckily, she will be moving in with her fiancé after he gets back from deployment. And also, just in case anyone was wondering, my coworkers knew that childcare was a struggle for me, but they didn't really have any advice to help me out with childcare because most of them don't have kids. And in fact, a lot of their kids are already grown up. But the lady who offered to help is one of my favorite coworkers, and she has even come over to help me make decorations for our classroom at work, so she knows my kids, and they really seemed to like her anytime she came over, which is in a way giving me hope that things might work out for the better. Oh my gosh, so many things happened here. This is crazy. First of all, I want to say that your coworker in this story is an absolutely amazing person. They stepped up right when this crap was going down and was like, okay, I'll help you out. I'm retiring soon. I can absolutely come in clutch and make sure that your kids are taken care of. And that is amazing. Like, that is like the most charitable and kindest thing she can do in this situation, because the mom of this story is an absolute narcissist. Think about it. She's trying to be like, oh, I'm not going to show up because I want you to know what it's like to struggle. Your husband's death, by the way, is affecting me negatively. And it's like, hey, stupid, what about your daughter? I'm willing to bet she's probably going through a harder time. Like, what are you talking about? This is just such an inconvenient time for him to die. I mean, come on. Like, holy crap, what an idiot. And the fact that she was yelling at an 8-year-old kid who's like clearly not okay with being around her, like, dude, I'm right there with your kid. He probably clocked that immediately and was like, no, I don't want to go to that crazy lady's house. You don't know what she's like when you're not around. Like, holy crap. So yeah, this entire situation is so crazy. Your mom is insane. And the fact that she wants to punish you all because you're like, hey, can you please just like stay at my house? Which, by the way, that's where all of this started. Like, that is absolutely uncalled for, and there is no good excuse for that. And hopefully you and your family can find some peace being away from her, because if anything, this is like a blessing in disguise. An entitled Karen literally throws a fit and tries to ruin my son's 5th birthday party, as she loses her mind when she finds out that we reserved 2 tables, as well as set up a bouncy castle against her wishes. Things got so bad that the cops ended up getting called after her group of people started a fist fight, putting me in one of the most awkward and honestly craziest situations I've ever been in my entire life. Here's how it all went down. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I did all my due diligence to have my son's 5th birthday party under shaded benches at a public park. These are basically first come first serve, but can also be rented out if you really want to. I wanted to do a bouncy castle too and had to get a city permit just to allow it. So I reserved my 2 rows of benches under the 6-row awning and got there at about 6 o'clock in the morning just to make sure that I got an end row for easier access because it is a kids party, while also securing my 2 rows of tables. Well, another guy comes out of nowhere and starts setting up for his 1-year-old's birthday party and actually starts putting up ribbons and balloons and tablecloths on the 2 tables right behind me. This guy then asked me if I could watch his stuff real quick while he goes to the store for ice or something like that, because I guess he forgot to get something. I don't exactly remember what it was specifically, but regardless, I say to him, sure. I mean, I genuinely have nothing else to do while I'm waiting at the park, and I had to wait until noon for the party to even start. I did have my son with me because he wanted to come and play at the park and run around while we waited. And this is really important for the next part here. So the next thing I know is that my son is hysterically running towards me, and I'm freaking out because of his screams of terror. So a lady
lady with her infant and toddler were at the playground, and she had a puppy on a leash. My son was running to the swings, and the dog was able to lunge out and bite him on the arm. And it's here that I found that he had an actual good puncture wound. So first I check on him and I make sure that he's okay, and once I do, I go find the said dog owner, and I'm like, what in the world is going on? Why bring aggressive dogs to the park with kids running around? She also never even bothered to come to me either. I mean, I had to go to her, and she was rushing to leave. But she was saying, oh, it's a puppy, he has his shots, and all this other crap. And while I was pissed, I will say her apologies and look of remorse led me to eventually just move on. Now, his wound wasn't worth a doctor's trip or anything like that. I mean, it was minor, and this lady actually had shot records and we exchanged numbers, so I just let it go. And truly, I thought that's the worst that will happen today, but oh my god, I was so incredibly wrong. So, me and my boy go back to the tables, and this new lady, who I will call Karen, and you will understand why pretty quickly, has suddenly arrived and was ripping all the decorations off the tables the guy asked me to watch. When I confronted her, she says that she reserved the tables, and we all had to move. Well, it's here that I let her know that I too reserve tables, and only 2 rows can be reserved, and any that aren't are first come first serve. On top of that, there was a guy already here, and he just left to grab something real quick. And with all the chaos of my son's ordeal that was around at the time, the guy finally got back. I then apologized for the Karen and his decorations that he literally right now is pulling out of the trash. She's pissed off because she thought she got all 6 rows of tables, and it's here that the insults start flying at this guy from her, plus the small group of people that showed up with her. I actually showed her the spot on our permits where it states 2 tables, and she's pissed off but kinda just let it go. Well, that is until the bounce house guy gets here and starts to actually set things up. Karen comes stomping over to me and she says to me, "You can't have that here." But I look at her and I say, "Yes, you can. You just have to have a city permit to do it," which I absolutely do. The Karen then looked at me and said, "No, I called the park and they said that you can't." But I responded back and said, "Yeah, you can. It even says that on their website. You have to get a city permit," which was $100 to be able to set one up, and guess what? I did that. She then wanted to see said permit, but was being very rude from the get-go. So I said to her, "Lady, I don't have to prove anything to you." Now, at this point, the parties are in full swing, and she actually keeps trying to send her kids over to our bounce house. It's here that I tell her, "I'm sorry, but I can't permit that. If one of your kids gets hurt, then I'm gonna be liable. So sorry, but that's not gonna happen." Now, I didn't do this, but I also probably should have mentioned that if she wasn't a total jerk to everybody, then maybe it would be a different story. But anyhow, this makes her over the top mad, which then prompts this Karen and her group to start hurling insults towards the middle table. She was more mad at me, I think, but they were closer, so they got her rage. Anyways, Karen and her entitled man get really nasty, and the next thing I know, there is a full-blown fist fight between the Karen's baby shower group and a 1-year-old birthday party group. And while it wasn't like the whole group fighting each other and instead just the husbands, it was still incredibly scary. Eventually, the cops got called and the kids were really scared. I then walk over and I said I'd give a statement to the police, where I explained the guy next to us didn't start it, but instead it was Karen and her group. Well, surprisingly, no one went to jail. But of course, Karen had the police check if I had the proper permits, and when all my stuff stayed because it was all legal, she finally backed down and stopped with the insults. But regardless, I still got these awful stares from her and pretty much anyone in her group the entire time we were there. This entire scenario was crazy, and I will probably never forget this ever again in my entire life. Oh my gosh, imagine going to the park, trying to have a good time for your 5-year-old son, only to then watch this lady start ripping down decorations, get in your face and scream at you, try to prevent you from setting things up, and then eventually get in a fight with the group next to you. Holy crap, you have some problems. It's also baffling to me that nobody went to jail and this lady wasn't kicked out of the park. Seriously, this is the definition of public disturbance. Not to mention the fact that your son got bit by a dog. Dude, this is all gotta stop. Murphy's Law is in full effect. Somebody reset the router. What's going on right now? So yeah, that Karen was crazy, and thankfully nobody got hurt besides your son getting bit by a dog, because this could have been way worse if the circumstances were just a little bit different. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for excluding my autistic son from a family vacation and choosing to leave him behind for a week, all because he ruined our last vacation? Because right now he is not taking it well, and I'm not sure if I'm in the wrong. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my husband and I have 3 kids, and their ages are 11, 9, and 6. And this particular situation is about my 6-year-old son. We've been planning for a family vacation for a while, and this time, we decided not to include him and have his grandparents care for him for a week. Now, you might be wondering the reason we are excluding him. Well, last year year we went on a family vacation, and he hated every bit of it, and kept throwing tantrums and having meltdowns, all because things were different from what he was used to. He even ran off multiple times in the hotel, so we had to literally spend half the day just looking for him. Due to this, we couldn't do most of the activities that we had planned, and our other two children were also pretty disappointed due to this. This time though, we wanted to go to a similar place, mostly since we couldn't enjoy it last time, and we decided for his sake that it was best to leave him with his grandparents for a week so that his routine isn't majorly disrupted. For reference, my son has autism, and he struggles to adjust with changes and has meltdowns if anything goes differently. Since it was a different place, his safe foods weren't available either, and those that were available didn't taste the same, so he refused to eat them altogether. The only things he could eat were packaged snacks, and since we didn't have anything else, he had to live off of them the entire time. We had to cancel most of our plans because he would throw tantrums and have meltdowns very often. When we told our older children about our upcoming trip, our 9-year-old started crying and said that he didn't want to go because of what happened last time, and our 11-year-old said that she also wanted to stay with her grandparents. Well, when I told them that their brother would actually be staying behind with the grandparents, they seemed relieved and actually kind of excited. But when we told our 6-year-old about this, he did not take it well at all, and said that it was incredibly unfair for him. I reminded him of what happened last time, and he promised me that he would behave. But really, I don't want to make him miserable and the rest of us miss out on the trip due to him. I feel like it's best for everyone, including him, that he just doesn't come. But this is literally where I feel like I'm conflicted on our decision. I mentioned in a support forum for parents with autistic kids about leaving him behind, and I got so many comments calling me cruel and heartless, and that he deserves better parents. I even told his counselor about this, and even she told me that I was wrong and that I should instead make accommodations. But I don't understand how I can make reasonable accommodations while enjoying the trip. The only place I know he won't be miserable is at home. I mean, we visited relatives' homes before, and he had meltdowns at things there and even damaged their property. So am I the jerk here? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, I do not think you're the jerk, because this is one of those situations where it's like, okay, I'm not going to sacrifice the enjoyment of my 2 oldest kids just for my youngest who needs a little bit extra help. And I'm not blaming the kid for having autism. Like, I can only imagine what that's like at that age, especially when you're struggling with changes and like going to different places. Like, he's only 6 years old, so I have a lot of sympathy for that, and it's like, I completely understand why he's not having a good time. But if you can't quite get it under control, then going on like separate vacations might be the plan. And I think a lot of people in the comments of this post have pretty much suggested that, like, if you plan some kind of separate, smaller vacation just for him, that might make up for this one situation and might be for the best. But if he really is causing a lot of problems and we can't look past it and it's just ruining pretty much everything, then yeah, I think you're making the best decision for the entire family by saying that he's going to sit out this one, but then maybe have another one in the future to try and make up for it. I think that's very fair, especially when you consider the circumstances that are pretty much going on in this story. I am so sick and tired of people thinking that my mom is a good person, especially when I consider the fact that my childhood was a nightmare because of her. And at this point, I'm so distraught over this, I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Alright, I want to start off by saying that I am so tired of false victim narratives and feeling like I'm less than a human. I'm tired of feeling treated like a bad investment, and I'm sick of feeling like I don't matter. I've recently been in therapy and I've been dealing with this with a professional. And before any of you go, oh, you've got mommy issues, I want you to read this before so you can cast your judgment accordingly. I'm a 33-year-old male, and I'm the firstborn child to very successful attorneys for parents. Now, to put it bluntly, my father is an idiot, and I've already written about him being a lost cause. But this time, I'm going to delve into a story and tell you about my mother. For a little bit of background about her, she immigrated to this country when she was 2 years old. She was a very hardworking woman and got into an Ivy League college, then became a very successful attorney. All of this is extremely admirable, and in many ways, I look up to her as an example of striving for your dreams. With that being said, behind those accomplishments, I got a very different person raising me and my siblings. My mother, when she punishes us, is a very draconian and Machiavellian person. I mean, she would be pretty sadistic, honestly. I would say she's a sociopath. I don't remember her being an emotional person. I remember as a kid, I would tell some jokes and just remember how she would just stare at me as if I wasted her time. The one time I remember her just absolutely laughing her head off was when we all thought that she was having a stroke. And I kid you not, one of the earliest memories was when I accidentally killed my brother's pet. My brother has severe autism and had a pet snake, and he was freaking out because it wouldn't close its jaw. And I thought that I was doing the right thing by walking up and closing its jaw. I then remember the snake going limp and my father confirming that it was dead. Mind you, I was just a child, and I did not know that what I did would have hurt the snake in any way, shape, or form. But my mother just didn't care. My younger brother then started tearing up and crying and mourning his pet. And then my mother rushed into my room, stared at me with evil eyes, and started screaming how she was going to ship me off to live with another family, that I was no longer her son. She screamed that I was this evil child, and the entire time I was crying, like nonstop tears rolling down my face. Again, mind you, I was still a child, and I seriously thought I was helping my brother and the snake. My mom actually sent me to therapy to deal with a child therapist, and ever since then, I've always felt like I was some sort of devil spawn in my mother's eyes, as if I was a Damien Thorne monster that she had the misfortune of bearing. Once the accounts are clear, I swear to God, I thought I was in a different version of Rosemary's Baby. I also honestly hated coming home as a kid, as I was an easy target. It wasn't an uncommon occurrence if crap wasn't going right in her life, where she would take her anger out not only on me, but my other siblings as well. I just so happened to be the greatest target of her chastisement because I was the eldest. To avoid this, I would usually sign up for after-school activities, football, rugby, debate team, a part-time job of any kind, whatever I could do to get away from her and those bad days that she has. Now, my sister, for the most part, was the golden child. She could have gotten away with anything. While my sister got designer clothing and had shopping trips for whatever she might need in a new wardrobe, I was expected, on the other hand, to take secondhand clothing and wouldn't even go on shopping trips with her, despite the fact that she was buying jeans for me. I mean, I remember having to wear jeans that were way too tight. I remember having to literally beg her to take us to get new clothing, and I swear I had an easier time pulling my own teeth out on those days. For the most part, I was expected to be a pushover, expected to just accept things the way they are and not throw a fit about it at all. My mother was very much the type of person who would say that children should be seen but not heard. But my siblings, on the other hand, if they needed something, they got it. It was always a freaking struggle for me. But the most awful incident happened when I was 14 years old. My parents convinced me to go with my friend and his father to a different state for winter break, despite the fact that I had reservations to do so. Well, the entire time, my friend's father bullied me. There wasn't a single day where he wouldn't stop giving me crap of any kind. It became worse because I met my friend's grandmother, who has listening problems and memory problems, and I gave her my name and she kept calling me by another name. And since I didn't want to be impolite whenever she called me by this other name, I decided I would just go ahead and respond. Well, as a result, my friend's dad kept calling me by that fake name, and it got so annoying to an extreme degree. When we finally got home after 2 weeks of nonstop bullying, my friend, his dad, and I were standing in the kitchen with my mother, my siblings, and a family friend. And it's here that my friend's dad thought it was funny to flick me behind the ear. At that point, I was fed up. I turned around and I yelled, "Stop." And my mother simply walked up, tapped me on the shoulder, and whispered in my ear to go to my room. And I knew at that point my fate was sealed. While I was in my room, my friend's dad spun this image of me being a disrespectful and rude kid. He told my mother about the name calling, and my mother then called me back into the kitchen where I sat down in front of everybody. My mother then asked me questions about the trip, and I told her that I didn't want to talk about it, but she said we were going to talk about it. As we got to the name calling part of things, she asked me what the name was, and I responded what the fake name was. Well, immediately she jumped at me and screamed, "Well, guess what? We're going to call you by that name for 24 hours. She then turned to my siblings and told them that they're going to call me by a fake name for the next 24 hours. And as everybody was screaming that name, the family friend was giving me a lecture. At this point, I was bawling my eyes out. 2 weeks of torture, and now I get picked on by my own family. I mean, I couldn't even hear what this family friend was saying because everything just seemed muffled after that. The mistreatment was so bad that even my friend's dad felt terrible. He tried to apologize to me, but I ended up just running away in the rain. I ended up under a bridge near my house and I just slept there. And the only reason I ended up home again was because a cop found me under the bridge and escorted me home. And I've got to be honest, to this day, this incident still gives me nightmares. As she raised us, she treated us like bad investments. Anytime we would have any criticisms against her or what she was doing, she would remind us that she spent money on us and that basically, therefore, we had to shut up and obey her command. Anytime I had a legitimate concern, she would always shut me down with a very line of saying, "Oh, well, I spent a lot of money on you." And that automatically would trigger me to shut down the conversation and just pretend like the incident never happened. And in case you're still wondering, this happens even to this day. Well, in college, things got really dark and I had some very dark thoughts, if you know what I mean. My hatred for both of my parents escalated to such a degree that I thought ending it all would be the final middle finger to both of them. I told my mom and she feigned concern. However, a few days later, she went right back to her verbally awful self and yelled at me over why the house wasn't clean at her standard. Then, a few years back, my sister graduated from law school and the family decided to host a graduation party over there. My dad rented out an Airbnb and I was told that it would be a family event. Well, my dad later informed me on the phone that my mother took the liberty of inviting her hairstylist and their partner to the Airbnb as well. And as a result, I was relegated to the couch. I was very close to not going, but I didn't want to disappoint my sister. And in hindsight, I definitely should not have gone. By the time I landed, it was a 12-hour journey and I was dead tired. My parents and my sister picked me up from the airport, and instead of going straight to the house where a couch was waiting for me, we went to Costco instead, and I waited in the parking lot for what felt like hours. Once we were done with Costco, we went to my sister's apartment because she wanted to get ready for a photo shoot. So instead of me napping for the 2 hours that I was there, I was up listening to my mom and my sister talking while music was playing in the background. When we finally reached the Airbnb and I just wanted to sleep on the couch, my mom was instead socializing with her hairstylist and friend. I then stayed up for another 2 hours until people finally decided to sleep. And my God, I hated that vacation. And truly, these are some of the biggest examples of where I'm pissed off at my mother. I am currently in therapy discussing issues with a professional, and funnily enough, her jaw drops with some of the stories I have to tell. But the thing that pisses me off about this whole situation is that people talk to me about how she's such a great person and how she's super kind. In my mind though, I think of all those terrible memories, and I look at her clients, which are mostly juveniles, because she works in juvenile dependency, and I think if they only knew the type of person that she truly is. When I try to approach her with all the issues that I have with her, she always talks about how much money she spent on me and that I'm just an ungrateful person. Don't get me wrong, we didn't struggle growing up. I was grateful and appreciative of my upbringing, just definitely not the way she treated me or my siblings. All I want is for her to understand my side of things, but she refuses to listen even to this day. I honestly don't think even trying to maintain a relationship with her is worth it, and I can actually count on one hand the times in the past 10 years that she's even called me to see how I was doing, because this situation is honestly so messy and I just don't know what to do. Okay, this is so heavy. Your mom is super awful. Like, your parents did not like you at all growing up, and that is terrible. I'm so sorry for that. But there's one thing you need to know about people like this, and I really mean this, because I don't think she will ever come to understand where you're coming from. She will always try to twist it around. She'll always have something to say, and I'm honestly convinced that she will do whatever it takes to avoid taking responsibility altogether. Like, I'm sorry, I'm just not convinced based on what you described that she will ever come to be like, oh, you're right, I understand what you're going through. And like, especially when it comes to like an apology of some kind, like that's definitely not gonna happen. Because seriously, let's think about the person we're dealing with right now. She treated you like the stepchild that nobody wanted. She was mistreating you constantly. She called you by some fake name just to mock you. Anytime you cried or were upset, she would like turn it against you. Like, this is a series of very awful mistreatments towards you from someone who definitely is a sociopath. Like, I think you clocked that correctly early on. Like, she is crazy. It's either that or she's a narcissist, but I'm sure those are like distant cousins if you think about it. So I think it's probably important to know that you are dealing with a very emotionally empty person. Like, this is a husk of a human being who does not feel any emotion. She doesn't care about how you're feeling or what you're doing. I mean, when you were in college, she barely cared about the fact that you were thinking about ending it all, which I'm really glad you're alive, by the way. Like, that sounds really scary, and I can only imagine going through that, like, truly. But in my opinion, and this is truly just my opinion, when someone shows you who they are, it is very important to believe them. That's like a life motto I go through, dude. When someone's like treating me like garbage and they're showing that, yeah, they don't care about me, then in my opinion, it's my responsibility to be like, okay, this is how they actually think about me. This is the way they treat me on a daily basis. This is how they treated me growing up in this instance. And I need to believe this and say, this is how they really are. And based on what you're describing, your mom does not sound like a good person at all. She blatantly pushed you to the side and bullied you all throughout your childhood. She made you feel like crap and essentially just showered your siblings with love and gave you absolutely nothing. So I can say confidently, if I was in your shoes or even close to this kind of situation, and I found myself stuck in this kind of garbage where I'm trying to find some kind of middle ground for them to understand where I'm coming from while also unpacking the crap that my parents put me through, like, if that was me, I absolutely would be like, okay, I'm going no contact with these people. And I don't say that lightly, and honestly, that's just what I would do. For me, there's no point in going back and forth with people who legitimately do not care about my existence, because it's disrespectful to me and my own self-dignity to have to deal with someone like that, only to then have to navigate their stupid excuses as to why they treated me like crap. Like, your mom's only excuse is like, well, we spent a lot of money on you, so you just have to deal with it. And it's like, oh, okay, you spent a lot of money, but you also mistreated me. You would rather I sleep on the couch instead of a bed. Like, you do know I'm your son, correct? And I gotta be honest, just to circle back, if I had a family member or like a cousin or a kid of some kind, and they came back and said, yeah, that man was bullying me for 2 weeks, I would turn around and probably get in a fight with that guy. Like, what are you talking about? You don't turn around and be like, oh, I'm gonna call you by a fake name for the next 24 hours. Welcome to the next 24 hours of your life. Like, dude, what's going on right now? So truly, with all things considered, I'm so sorry you went through this. I'm super glad you shared this story because, my God, people need to hear stuff like this. I think understanding people's stories and like their experiences like this, it's a really good way of gaining empathy and understanding where people are coming from. So to that end, I really hope things get better for you in your life, and I hope you're able to find some distance from your crazy mother because you deserve way better, and that woman is truly a monster. Thanks for watching. Subscribe down below if you haven't already. And also, please subscribe to Am I the Genius? I think you're going to love what they're making over there. It's a great channel and you should definitely check it out. Everything will be linked down below in the description. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.